from her.
It's really hot. I'll go check it out.
Okay, mic's on. Okay, we're going to get started. Missing a commissioner, and maybe she'll come in good time. Welcome to this November 16th meeting of the Nevada City Planning Commission. I'm going to read the land acknowledgement here. We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on this Nisenan land and that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in the Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition. Hello, Wendy.
Hi.
Would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See Russ on here. Is he going to join us, or do you?
I will send you a message.
How about a roll call? Donna?
Commissioner Ermshaw,
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Van Zant,
Here.
Vice Chair Compton,
Here.
and Chair Nye.
Here. I should hit the gavel. We are called to order. Well, you know, it's a formality that must be carried through. Public comment, Government Code section, etc., provides that any member of the public may address the Planning Commission on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the Planning Commission or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment at this time. The Planning Commission cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item at the time as it is heard. Speakers must restrict comments to the item as it appears on the agenda and stay within a 3-minute time limit or lesser time if the Planning Commission Chair determines necessary due to the number of persons who wish to speak on an item. The Chair similarly has the discretion of limiting the total discussion time for any item as may be necessary. So are there any public comments for items not on the agenda at this time for anyone in the House or online?
If you have a comment not on the agenda, please raise your virtual hand.
Or actual hand if you're here, but seeing none. We'll first consider the consent calendar, and all items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature, and all recommended actions of the staff report will be approved by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the commission or public requests otherwise, in which case the item will be removed for separate consideration. Any item so removed will be taken up following the motion to approve the consent agenda. So on the consent calendar are meeting minutes from October 12th and Planning Commission liaison reports. And if no one wishes to see any of them separately discussed, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So first is public hearing, item 377 Wyoming Road, architectural review and variance request for disturbance within the 100-foot Deer Creek setback, front yard setback, and within areas of steep slopes for proposed residents. If you'd like to introduce it more fully, Lisa, please do.
Yes, thank you, Chair Nye. Elise and Jason, you can come on up and join us here. I'll introduce your project and then I'll let you speak a little bit about it in case I miss anything. So So the project before you today for 377 Wyoming Road is architectural review and a variance for both steep slopes and construction within the 100-foot Deer Creek setback. The proposal is for a 3,525 square foot, two-story residence with a walkout basement and an attached 610 square foot two-car garage. A deck and a patio are off of the back of the house overlooking Deer Creek. The architect describes the style as a walkout style residential ranch. An improved driveway is proposed with a rock-faced retaining wall along the length of the driveway. The existing driveway that you see there today will be changed slightly and made wider, and the retaining wall that will go along the side will vary in height between 2 feet up near Wyoming Road to approximately 6.5 feet high and again, it goes from Wyoming Road to the entry of the two-car garage that is proposed on the west side of the home. The home is designed with a wall on the north side of the house that will act as a retaining wall and also as the foundation. An age-in-place model is important to Elise Warner, the property owner, and her design includes a grade break in the driveway at the covered front entry, where the driveway will basically level off for a short distance, big enough to park a car, and then start trending back down towards the garage. For the variance, this property received a variance and approval for construction of a primary home and an ADU in 2001 by an applicant named Garrett Chow. He was the owner of the property before Elise bought it. That variance actually runs with the land and functions in a way that's similar to an entitlement. What that means is that Elise could build that home that was approved, previously approved on the site, utilizing the variance from that previous approval. Rather, she would like to request architectural review on a new residence that is more suited to her style and taste. It's definitely a challenging site. The slopes are steep. There's an existing graded pad that we don't have any record of permits for, and the reason I say that is if there was a record of a permit, we would have it in our file or the building department, but it's likely been there for a long time and built many years ago, same as the driveway. Working within the steep slope areas and the constraints of what currently exists at the site, the home design, Elise's home design is integrated with the slopes similarly to what was proposed for Garrett Chow's approval. What I mean by that is the retaining wall in the back acting as the foundation for the home. There's definitely some differences between that approval and the proposed project in front of you. Firstly, Garrett's project had an ADU, which was beyond to the further west beyond the house, and his driveway expansion was different than what Elise has proposed. So to explain the design a bit, it was a little bit hard for me to grasp until I went on site, but basically to accommodate the grade break in the driveway, the height of the house needs to be built to a certain level, and also to get the driveway to sort of function properly with the slope and be built at 16%, soil will be moved down and onto the existing graded pad to bring the level of the pad up approximately varying between like 1.37 feet and 2.71 feet. So rock facing on the slope near the edge of the existing graded pad will be constructed to act as a sort of a retaining structure for soil that is placed on top of the existing pad. And then the retaining wall for the house will continue beyond the house and act as a retaining wall for the garage area and also for a section of the yard on the east side. We did receive a lot of comments regarding the project, public comment, written public comment. I also met with two of the neighbors hoping to address their concerns, and it seemed to sort of work in the opposite way as they went and rallied more people to comment. I did do a little bit of research into the previous approval compared to Elisa's, and the square footage is different, mostly because the current proposal is for a two-story residence, and Garrett's project was 1 story with like a small section that was 2 stories. And I can bring up the photos here in a minute, but as far as the roof, the foundation of Garrett's was 84 feet by 30 feet, and Elisa's proposed foundation is 82 feet by 26 feet. So it's actually a smaller footprint, especially if you consider in the ADU, that's not included in that size. Garrett's proposed house was 84 feet by 38 feet for the roof lines, and Elisa's is 87 feet by 30 feet. What else would I like to tell you about? The height of the house, Elisa's is proposed at 32 feet 4 inches. The house that was approved previously was 33 feet 6 inches above grade. There's a little bit of an unknown there because the rendering from the previous architect showed it down to the base of the footing, the foundation footing, so there may be a little bit of a variation there. And so the 2 approvals that are before you today are for architectural review and a variance. The 2 are really quite integrated, and your review will need to be for both. As such, the design for the house is specific to the site, and you can't really review the architecture without thinking about the variance because of the steep slopes. So for your findings, does the site support the proposed residential development? Does the house fit within the context of the neighborhood for architectural review? Is the variance finding supported, and does this property qualify for a hardship and an exception to standards? CEQA for this project, typically single-family residence would be considered statutorily exempt. Since we are doing a discretionary review, it is not statutorily exempt. Based on the reports received from the biologists and structural engineer and civil engineer, and the minimization measures that are lined out and included as conditions of approval of the project, the finding that I am requesting you to make for environmental review is to find the project categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, which is construction of a limited number of new small facilities or structures. Includes examples of a single-family residence or a second dwelling unit in a residential zone. With that, I will let you add anything I may have missed, and thanks for being here.
I'm Jason Barnum, the civil engineer of record for the project, and also was on site during the field surveys to do the topographic, get the topographic information on the site.
What's this feedback? I think the microphone's too far, so they're trying to turn the volume up. There you go.
How's that? Better? So a couple clarifications on the site retaining wall, which does follow adjacent to the driveway down. The highest point is actually 6 feet at the bottom of the driveway. And as described by Lisa, we are adding a grade break where the front entry to the house is. We felt that it wasn't safe to exit a vehicle at 16% slope, and so that grade break is really necessary for safety to get into the home. And it is 20 feet long, so it does allow for a car to stop. The previous design did not have that grade break. The current driveway, as it is now, is 16% from the top down. And so what that grade break does is it actually helps not only entry to the building, but it helps reduce the height of the site retaining wall. So it'll be similar before the grade break as before, but once you get past the grade break, that wall, that site wall actually comes up. So there will not be as much wall seen along the site. And then also the retaining wall for the building itself, as mentioned, will be a structural wall. One other point of clarification, on the south side of the home, which is adjacent to the creek, closer to the creek, there is an existing rock face there. And so what we're proposing is not a wall there. We're just proposing adding to the rock, meaning rock found on the site will be used and moved to that existing top of slope. We are not going over the existing graded pad. We are just simply adding to it with rock so that we can build that lower pad up so she can get into the garage. So those are a couple points of clarification. Researching the site and the pre-existing survey, which I was not a part of, but the same company was, SCO. The high water mark along the creek was taken in November of 2015. Doing some research, I have the precipitation data for that month, of that year, and the first 10 days of November received 3.2 inches of rain, which is a significant amount. The survey crews do not go out when it's raining. It's harmful to the instruments. So that means that our survey took place in the middle of November and would have been probably one of the highest watermarks to exist. So we're conservative on the 100-foot setback.
And the setback is drawn from where you guys surveyed that day?
The high water mark, yes. That's what the 100-foot is measured from. Originally, the property line was where the creek was located. Any further things I should add?
Well, I would just like to reiterate the fact that the square footage is not dissimilar to the approval of Garrett Chow's project. The letter that went out, I think, kind of really upset people because it was just addressing square footage, and they didn't realize I was actually staying in that footprint pretty much. I mean, I've been very conscious of staying within that approved footprint the whole time we've been designing the home. And we've even tried to push it back, but you can't push it back too much because you're just squeezed in that shelf. By the time you do the easement and the 100-foot coming up from the creek, there's a very little small strip that can be built on. And there was actually a comment also about, well, it's 7 acres, but it's not 7 acres, it's 4.5. But the greater portion of the whole property is really unbuildable. And the E section by town is so steep, you can hardly clean it up, all the forest floor. And the south side is restricted by the city property that goes along Wyoming, a strip, and that 100-foot setback. So you really just come back to that small strip of that building site that exists to actually put a home on. And we're not doing the ADU like Garrett Chow was approved. So actually the square footage and the whole disturbance of that area is less than what Garrett was doing. And also I think how it was worded of additional or attached garage was, people thought it was the square footage of a house plus another 600-foot garage, but in fact it is contained within that footprint, but it's two-story. And the reason it's two-story because I would like to live there to the end of my days after all this project goes on, and we're trying to make a living on the first floor. So bedroom, living room, kitchen functioning, all upstairs with the garage down below. And then you can enter in the front, you know, if you can't walk up the stairs. So the garage down below, and that, since there's not any outdoor buildings, we made that garage very large to accommodate storage and Tesla batteries and whatnot. But I think the square footage of the garage is irrelevant compared to the dimensions of the house itself.
Thanks. Any questions from the commission for the applicants?
I have a question. So with I understand the footprint of the house is unchanged. The pad is changing somewhat. So could you clarify what the increase is in the square footage that encroaches within the creek setback?
Yeah, sure. So, I don't know, Lisa, if you could possibly bring up the encroachment areas. So what we are doing is the encroachment at the south side of the building for the exterior patio.
I'm sorry, I'd like to interrupt with
Sure.
maybe a preparatory question. You mentioned, did you guys, your firm, lay out the 100-foot creek setback? That's your mark?
Yes.
And it's actually further back from the creek than a previous establishment of that setback line? Because you went from a high water year? You're saying you've painted yourself into a smaller corner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the high water mark taken in November 2015 is what was used, which was very high. And so we did set the 100-foot setback ourselves, just last year, I believe. We set the markers.
And you mentioned that so that we would bear in mind that you are being earnest.
Yes.
So, well, thanks, Tom. That's a good question. So that's actually a good point. So I think related to that then is what was the previously approved setback and or 100-foot line? What's the difference between that and the new one? Do we know what that is?
Well, I just put this together today, so it's kind of hard to see. You can see this is the proposed project.
Could you zoom?
Bigger.
Yeah, could you zoom into that?
Yes, of course.
And we don't have this in our packet, Lisa.
You do.
Could you
So
direct us to the page?
In the packet, you'll want to go to sheet, page 26. You'll see there's 3 drawings that are for the site plan.
And so we added the colored hatching, so it was very clear what was over the 100-foot line.
I guess to clarify, I am interested in that, but the first thing I'm interested in is how much did the 100-foot line itself shift?
I am not sure with
Okay.
Garrett Chow's how his was set. I just know how ours was.
It looks to me, having participated in the last one as well, that it shifted maybe 6 feet.
6 feet. Okay.
But that I am eyeballing.
So you
Don't
can-
quote me on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Rod, if
I
you
know
look
it's on the
there,
record, but it's not on the record.
It's kind of hard because it's blurry, but you can see the setback line here.
Sorry, that's,
So this is the proposed project,
okay.
and then this is the previous project,
What year was his again?
2021.
Oh, 2021. So he was likely using the same line.
Okay.
That's what I
So it
thought.
was probably
Yeah.
the same
Like,
line.
similar.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it does look very similar.
And then you can
It should
see
be.
the encroachment from the previous approval with the corners of the home. Here, this is for Garrett's.
And also to clarify on that, this project, the home is not going over the line as Garrett Chow's was, only the exterior patio and deck.
Right.
And it seems mostly just the deck extension.
Yes, there's a couple clips of the patio that will be, and I took the square footage of it, it's 136 square feet, which is
This
minimal.
is like stairs coming down off the deck on this side. And then the deck footings will be out here. And then this is patio.
Yes.
So, but that's the deck encroachment, but there's some encroachment for the additional fill as well, correct?
Correct, and what we
Better
are
screen.
doing is setting the existing pad line as our catch. So we're not going past what's already been graded.
So the foot of the slope, of the engineered slope for the pad is unchanged?
Unchanged, yes.
Okay.
And that was delineated by boulders, if I
Yes,
recall
yes,
correctly?
we're going to use boulders. We do not want to have any structural walls.
Right.
It's referred to as rock slope protection, so.
Yeah, I think that there's boulder, like what I meant to say for Rod's benefit or anyone else who's curious is that those boulders are already there.
Right.
They're
Seen
very
those.
substantial
Yeah.
boulders.
Yes,
Yep.
and we're just adding to what's existing. Mhm.
And what would you, you probably got a section of this someplace, or there's probably a section of it in here, but the angle of slope between the established pad, the boulders that support that, what is the angle of slope from the back to
Sure.
the driveway improvement?
So we can go up to a 1-to-1 with rock, and so that's what we need to do. Now, that is only at the areas in yellow. The other areas in the striped purple hatching, that is not steep. That is just simply a sloped, a minimally sloped grade. And the extent of that, again, is the same line as the existing pad. I have it, there's percentages of slope there. It's about 2%, 2.2%, where the garage pad was located. So that almost meets an accessible slope, meaning you could wheel a chair if necessary.
And so the area of the driveway, I'm not going to attempt to do south and north. I get confused from this desk naming that, but the yellow rocks at the bottom of this image.
That's correct. Yep.
How high is the amount that you would propose adding? If it's a 1-to-1 stacked
Sure.
kind of situation, what is the height of that?
So that's 2.11 feet in the lower left corner. It's 1.37 feet where the cyan color meets the yellow rock hatch, and then it's 2.37 over on the east side.
So it'd barely be perceptible as a vertical
That's
thing.
2 stones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anybody else want to jump in with a question right now? I'll just, so the existing pad, so which is, encroaching on the creek setback and all that, wasn't permitted or anything at that time. Its stability isn't verified, so, because that was an unpermitted cut and fill. It's kind of obvious to a mere carpenter's eye that that's what's happened. And so the stability of the existing pad will be addressed, stabilized if necessary, and our city engineer will verify that it's a safe situation, and in addition to it will be also verified by the correct
Yes.
people. That's not, because that's not our area to
Sure.
to judge. We rely on city staff in conjunction with you guys to do the right thing
Yeah, absolutely.
structurally.
We cannot build the home without the approval of a geotechnical engineer. So they will look at the fill that goes in and make sure that it's stable.
Can you briefly say what that process will entail?
Yeah, so a geotechnical engineer will come out on site after the engineered field has been, has been brought in by Josh Moore, the contractor. He'll likely use a sheep's foot roller to compact the earth. And then once it's compacted, he'll have NV5, which will likely be the geotechnical engineer, come out. They'll do a compaction test to make sure that it has the strength to withstand a car driving along the driveway and build a home. So they will ensure that the pad is stable.
And the existing pad gets assessed before anything gets added to it as well?
There's already been
Okay.
an assessment of the existing pad. There's been tests for the soil. Test pits and samples were taken to give us a soil strength, which was in turn used for the current walls.
And just for my curiosity, you find what the depth of the natural hillside is under the fill that exists?
I would have to look back at the report to see if they hit bedrock. I don't think they did. But what was found there currently is stable.
Okay.
Yes, we have a report for that. I believe it's in the packet as well.
Yeah, I could add to that. The geotechnical engineer did recommend excavating down until they got to native soil under the direction or inspection by the geotech engineer, and so we added that as a condition of approval.
Okay.
To make sure that when construction started, when compaction of the fill started, they were on a stable surface.
Because we and the people of Nevada City would want to know that it's a stable structure, that it wouldn't cause, a disaster for your beautiful proposed house and for the creek below. No mudslides, please.
And we'd like to stay in business too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just doing due diligence.
Yes, of course.
Actually, I do have one more question back to the encroachment. So I understand the house itself is not encroaching within the 100-foot limit, but there's a certain square foot of the deck that encroaches. How does that square footage encroachment compare to the previously permitted house encroachment?
Without giving you exact values, it's very similar,
Okay.
if not possibly less.
I recall Garrett's house being 100-something feet.
Okay.
100 feet of what?
Encroachment, 100
Square-
square feet.
square
Oh, okay,
Encroachment,
okay.
And that was house and patio. I want to say 111,
So our patio's 136.
36,
Yeah,
patio and deck.
I am not sure of the deck. I think it's another 8 foot by, is it 12? So maybe.
It changes with, it's the widest in the center as the pictures show. And what is encroaching on the variance there, what we're requesting is for the
The
deck
piers,
poles,
yeah.
piers that go down, which Jason and Josh were discussing earlier, and that those would actually be hand dug by Josh's crew. So we're not talking about equipment or anything that would be going into the creek. They'd be carefully hand dug, just as you would fence posts or something.
Are they gonna go down to bedrock or?
They'll be set in a footing or on a footing, yeah. So it'll have to be down a foot
I doubt any
below
of that, John.
existing grade. Mhm.
Okay.
It'll probably be 15 inches thick, maybe?
No.
And Josh could address that.
Yeah.
So to clarify that, you're saying the supporting posts encroach, but also, I mean, in the definition for the city of encroachment, does the overhang of the deck?
If we were going to calculate it on square footage,
It
I
would be
would
that,
say
right?
yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So in this site plan by the architect, you can see the footings in relation to the 100-foot setback.
Yeah.
Which one are you, okay.
Sheet 46, yeah.
It looks like two and a half are
Okay, there
in
we are.
2.5 footings.
And it's just 2.5 piers?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're outside.
No, it's just 2.5, Peter, that are outside the,
Oh, I see it, yeah.
yeah.
And actually what's shown there are the existing stones below. So those aren't ones that we're adding.
I have a memory of visited, lines were set up for commissioners to visit the site for the Chow project, and we were able to really visualize in the topography, how steep an area that was being worked on, how it really affected the slope, and what looked like maybe risk of rock or dirt fall or whatever. But I have a memory that this area where the deck support posts go is pretty steep, and it seems like steeper than in this section here. And I'm sure that's not erroneously shown, but I seem to remember it as being steeper than
I have another
it's
share
indicated.
or another photo I could show you here.
I guess I have a question for Russ based on that. Is that within our purview, though? Or is that more of a structural engineering, civil engineering question? Is that... I have a house that's also on an extremely steep
Yeah.
creek cliff situation, and
Well, I think it has to do with it should weigh into our decision about what is in the variance request for an encroachment on the stream setback, what is in it, and how it affects the slope. And also, it has an effect on the visual impact of the house from wherever it's viewable from. I mean, it would be part of architectural review as well.
okay.
Can I revisit the piers on the back of the deck? I feel, because I wasn't on the screen when it was discussed, and I heard the number 2.5, but maybe I'm interpreting this incorrectly. Can you pull that page up again?
Yeah, of course.
Did I hear 2.5
Yeah.
piers? Okay. So I think the 2.5 are on the piece that juts out further in the center, but there's also some in the peripheral side, right? Or,
There's a stairway on the east side.
and then on the west side, there's a corner of the deck?
It's the patio. The deck and patio are collinear on that west side.
I just wanted to make sure we had an accurate understanding.
Sure.
So this is the setback here where my mouse is.
Where did you go? Okay. Why did my photo just lose?
You see how it's 2.5 piers,
Yeah.
Wendy?
I think it's more, isn't it? That's what I'm saying. I think it's more.
2 3/4 piers, maybe.
Yeah, you're right, because there's a
It's a
pier
lot
on
more.
this corner of the
There's a
deck.
pier on,
And then
there's
the-
2 more on
the
each
stairs.
corner, and then the stairwell. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, on the east side, there's a stairway, which will have posts as well. We don't feel that's as difficult to construct because it's already in the pad area. It's not on a steep slope. The 2.5, or the 4, actually I should say, footings that are in the steep portion of the site are just on the south end of the deck.
Yeah, so not for the sake of qualifying how difficult it is to construct per se, just real clarity about what is the definition of, what is encroaching, just to be really
So
clear.
the stairway posts and footings, as well as the deck, 4 posts of the deck.
Well, the idea of the 100-foot, I believe, is to protect the slope from, in this particular case, the slope from sliding down further, and also to protect the creek. I mean, that's all I need. So the encroachments that we're talking about, there's square footage, but there's also, are they a danger to the slope, or are they a danger to the creek? It doesn't appear that it's, the posts, are, assuming you do the right engineering, they're not going to be falling down the hill and dragging dirt with it and, destroying that piece of property. So that's, That's the engineering side of it.
Great.
Lisa, you had an image up a minute, and then we didn't really pay attention to it, but it shows the area where the sort of outrigger posts, the
Peter.
2.5. Yeah.
Somebody's not being heard.
So that's,
Yeah, your mic.
so that's the slope where those
I
posts.
hate to be silenced.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see because I think it's actually behind this big tree here.
Okay.
But it's like below this, these rocks.
I think on page 58 as well, there is a pretty clear artist rendition of what that relief would look like.
I don't trust them entirely. They can be aspirational at times. They are beautiful renderings. So that image showed that it's not as steep as I remember it. So it's good to see that.
Well, I think, again, it's the issue is, what is it and where is it located, and what's the danger to the slope in the creek? I think those are.
And
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
there we go, I got this side.
I think also for the sake of this discussion, how different is it than the one that was previously approved?
Aren't we being asked for a new approval today?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think
No,
that they
I
are
know what
making
you're
a fair
saying.
point that it's not far off from what we previously were okay with.
Yeah,
So was it?
I agree.
Were you on the commission when that project came through?
yes.
Okay. But Rod, you weren't? And Wendy?
I was not.
And Thomas, looking at the contours on the south end where those existing rocks are located, it is not as steep as it is on the west side where the slope goes down.
So,
I'll note, by the way, for the record, that the conferring of a variance approval doesn't set a precedent. So this is an entirely separate discussion, though we can be guided by the things that were discussed and found at that time, but not bound by them necessarily.
yeah.
That's my understanding of the position we're in.
Yes.
New project, new setup, new
Right.
location.
Any other questions from the commission?
I think we can compare this to the last one we discussed, the overall project is larger, but I don't think there are many dangers introduced with this new one. As long as we're staying off the, as faithful to 100 feet as we possibly can, and the stuff up to the road, I think, it's just engineering and a safer driveway.
They were just taking questions right now, right?
Yeah, so before we get into discussion or giving our perspectives individually, we should hear any public comment on this. And then we have a discussion after that. So if there are no more questions, we're inviting public comment. If you'd like to join us, come up to the podium, identify yourself, and let us know what you're thinking.
My name is Faith Hageman, and I know Elise quite well. I'm here to more comment on the complaints that came from certain neighbors or community members, especially after hearing all the details of how the footprint, she stayed within it, and it's actually even smaller and the same or less height, that it seems like on the level of community complaint, I don't see what there is to complain about, because she described the garage being beneath the house and the reasons. So I just wanted to share that Elise is a naturally sensitive person and innately sensitive to the impact of construction on neighbors, the community, and the habitat. and she's talked with me often throughout this entire purchase and home design. She's been a neighbor in Nevada City for 25 years and a very caring person who's well-versed in considering the needs of others. So from the very beginning, she went around and met all the neighbors in the area to work collaboratively with them around fire danger prep and the setback and all the other concerns that any neighbor might have, as well as the height and anything and the footprint and all that. And the neighbors were very supportive and discussed with her all those issues. So Elisa's a woman of integrity and care and honesty and loves nature, which is why she wants to live there. And she puts the land and fire safety first. I've known her owning other homes in town. And she's also an artist and has a great sense of how to accent nature's beauty as well as man-made beauty. So I just wanted to share those observations while you're making your decisions.
Thank you.
you.
Anybody else with a comment?
Hi, I'm Diane McIntyre. I live on Bridge Street. Just have a quick clarification question, really, because I wasn't really sure with all you were saying. With respect to the 100-foot setback, is it from the center of the creek or the high water mark?
It's the high water mark.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, so we'll see if anyone has their hand raised in the Zoomosphere.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Hello.
Hang on one second. Let me work with my speaker here. Okay, go ahead now.
Hi, so I am Jenny Green. I am the property owner at 338 Jordan, which is directly across Deer Creek from the proposed develop.
Can you guys hear her okay?
No.
Okay, hold
Especially not
on.
with
We're
this
having
speed.
hey, Jenny, I'm sorry. We're having a technical difficulty. Give me just a moment.
Sure.
What is that magic sound effect sound? Is that people joining?
I think it's the speakerphone trying to connect or something. Maybe.
Okay, go ahead and try again, please.
So my name is Jenny Green, and I own the property at 338 Jordan, which is directly across the creek from the proposed development. When I purchased my property, it really was not for the house, and I mean that. It was for the creek and the privacy that I have had up to this point. So I have no doubt that the landowners have a right to build a home on their property, but the size of the structure as a single mass and the proximity to the creek have been really shocking to see. And I think we've had a tough start given that they essentially started aggressively clearing trees without permits within the riparian area early on in this process. I am strongly opposed to the variance for the following reasons. One, the steepness of the slope, which makes it really susceptible to erosion. Two, the impact on wildlife and vegetation. There's a new family of river otters that lives at the base of the creek at 377 Wyoming that I see on a daily basis. It will radically change the view from my property. I'm concerned about the impact of property value and I will have an extreme loss of privacy due to the orientation of the home, the sizable deck, and the proximity to the property line, and the orientation of it towards what is now a private beach for me, and literally the reason why I bought my house. So we camp there, we rest there, we swim there during the warmer months on a daily basis. I respectfully request that this project is denied as it's currently proposed and modified to conform with the previously approved project, which very lightly encroached on the setback. Any encroachment whatsoever may impact the creek and should be reviewed by the Army Corps of Engineers or a similar agency to determine potential impact on the health of the creek. The creek setbacks were established for good reason, and they are in the spirit of why we all want to live in Nevada City. It's not fair to allow a homeowner to be exempt from that. I also request that story poles be erected so the public and the commission can understand the visual impact of any proposed structure, and also allow the commission to get an actual view of how steep the slope is facing Deer Creek, because it's not as it was depicted today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So addressing her concerns regarding the steep slopes and the erosion, we will be placing BMPs on the site to ensure that no erosion makes it to the creek.
Can you explain for everyone what a BMP is, please?
Yes, it's a best management practice.
Thank you.
And what they are is a number of things to ensure that no erosion from construction make it into a waterway. Just as a few examples that we'll be using on site, we'll be using straw wattles or fiber rolls, which are about 8 inches in diameter, along with silt fence, which are staked in place and will catch any larger erosion. The fiber rolls should catch any silt or water runoff. So we will not be impacting the creek with any of the construction. As far as the size of the building, I think we've explained that the size footprint really actually is smaller than the previously approved plan. And considering your neighbor's home is just as large, not larger, it has precedence for the size.
What was that last comment?
The size of the neighbors around the area, the homes?
Okay, you weren't citing a specific neighbor, you were saying plural.
Yes.
Similar, gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
And I don't quite remember what her other concerns were. There has been a biological study done by Greg Matuzak to outline the animals and birds that inhabit the area, as well as the vegetation, which we will not be disturbing. The tree work that was done was primarily from PG&E for fire safety and was prior to ownership.
I'd like to comment on the tree subject. There were large trees on the house site that were above the house site, down from Wyoming, probably 5, that were slated to be removed by Garrett Chow and permitted. And I had 3 foresters confirm that that was the correct thing to do. So those were taken out shortly after I purchased the property, I think in 2001 or 2021. As far as clearing goes, I have not cut any big trees whatsoever on that property. The only large trees that were removed were at the driveway across from each other who had died from beetles, and PG&E took those out because they were a danger to those wires. The only work I have done on this land is clearing all the deadfall and things that have fallen over 30-plus years. I mean, I've paid crews over and over again. I've had stacks of deadfall 30 feet by 6 feet tall, either chipped or hauled out at my own expense to help with the fire abatement of this property. And so I don't know what the comment of removing trees is, because I removed none. The only tree that was cut down that was bigger than 11 inches was from the city clearing on their property between Scott Lister's and mine. There was one oak that was cut on my land that I did not approve of, so.
Thanks for answering those questions. Any other comments in the Zoomosphere?
Yes, we have other callers on Zoom. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please raise your virtual hand. Carly, I'm going to turn you on if you're still there. Go ahead, Carly.
Hi, I'm here. Thank you. So I'm Carly Sinkler, and my husband Marshall and I reside on Factory Street near the junction of Wyoming and Factory. I've seen that there's some letters opposing Elise Warner's application for 377 Wyoming Road, and I'm here to voice our support for Elise and her plans. We walk on Wyoming Road daily, and I have come to know Elise Warner well. We have seen her plans for the 377 Wyoming, and most importantly, have come to understand her approach to building a new residence in such a special lot. Elise is gracious and sensitive to the impact of construction on the neighboring community and the environmental habitat. She's also approached the design with the concept of keeping a similar footprint to what was approved on behalf of the previous owner, and you have been discussing that at length. While construction occurs, I anticipate that Elise will communicate clearly with contractors and follow all of the guidelines necessary to minimize the impact of construction. Based on the architectural renderings, the home design is harmonious with the topography and will have low visibility from Wyoming Road. Elise Warner has lived in Nevada City for many years and truly loves Deer Creek. It is clear that the variance regarding the creek setback was carefully considered, as well as the variance regarding the driveway. And I understand that new building is a scary time for neighbors that are homeowners. And it's easy to look for ways to disrupt the process rather than work collaboratively. When looked at objectively, the design submitted by Elise is honestly much more desirable for this location than the design that was approved on behalf of the previous owner, especially with the addition of the stone veneer, siding, and roof selections. The garage will also be situated in the basement rather than the separate building. I'm not sure how much opposition the previous owner faced for approval, yet the fact remains that the lot is buildable and a house is eventually going to be built. The neighbor that I would like to see on this incredible piece of property is Elise Warner, and I'm excited to watch her vision become a reality. Therefore, as a neighbor and community member, I support motions in the findings regarding 377 Wyoming Road and hope that you grant the variance request and approve the architectural review application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If anyone else on Zoom would like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand. There's lots of people, but they don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get into discussion, I wonder if our city engineer, Brian McAllister, has anything to add about your knowledge of the engineering and your opinion on the suitability to the site of this project.
We worked on this quite a bit together at the staff level before arriving to this point with the formal application. So it is a constrained site. There's setbacks on both sides, and we encourage them to build as much as possible in the previously graded area, which I think it is. And as far as other permits, like Army Corps, those kind of permits don't apply unless you're in the riparian zone or in the waters of the U.S., like close to the waters. Those permits aren't necessary, but the biological report would describe all the mitigation requirements to protect that environment, since it is close by. It just doesn't require permits from outside agencies, so.
Okay.
And can you
Thank-
speak at all to the potential or need for CEQA findings on this project? What they would give us or what they won't give us, or how they would inform the project in a way that the biologist report has not?
Well,
Only
Lisa's
if you're
actually
comfortable.
more familiar with CEQA, but CEQA process involves analyzing impacts and then determining what mitigation requirements would be there to mitigate those impacts. And I'm not sure what other CEQA.
Maybe we should direct the question to
Yeah.
Lisa.
Yeah, I would say, so, let me see, where should I start? So our responsibility with our staff recommendation is to analyze the project to see if it has the potential to create any environmental impacts. If it does, then we would need to do some sort of environmental document. If we find that the proposal does not have an opportunity to create impacts to the environment, then we can make a categorical exemption finding. With the recommendations in the biological report and the engineering design, I feel confident that I don't think that there's going to be an impact to biological resources, the creek, hydrology, other things that are related to CEQA. And so I am confident making that finding as long as the conditions of approval are met and as long as we review a erosion and sediment control plan before it goes for a building permit. There's a few more follow-up steps that'll be needed from the applicant. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you, Lisa. And
I think Russ wants to make a comment too.
Okay, and I will note that it's the measures that are defined by the biologist and included as our conditions of approval are avoidance and minimization measures, so that we are assured that there is no mitigation needed. So mitigation would be sort of like what do we need to do because there is an impact. But in this case, since we're determining that the project doesn't have the opportunity to impact the environment, we are imposing those avoidance and minimization measures.
Thanks. And I suppose I was pursuing these comments just for the benefit of anyone else listening who is wondering if there was any kind of biological assessment to this property in the first place, as it might have been missed.
Yes, yeah. In the biological report, the sensitive species were analyzed, the vegetation was analyzed, the creek habitat was analyzed, and there's, like I said, the avoidance and minimization measures at the end of that report.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Lisa. Our city attorney has appeared on the screen. I wonder if you had something to add, Russell?
I thought I did, but Lisa did a good job of explaining it. You know, our first step in CEQA is to determine if we have a project subject to the Environmental Quality Act, and if so, our next step is to see if it is statutorily or categorically exempt, and we've supported the findings to identify a categorical exemption. So your CEQA inquiry ends there by law.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you. Okay, if there aren't any more questions and no more comment from people present or on Zoom, we can begin our discussion. Commission discussion. Anybody who would like to jump in may.
I'll reiterate what I said earlier in the wrong section.
I did just get a comment. Sorry, Peter.
Go.
Okay, sorry, Peter.
We'll continue the public comment period.
Jill, you are welcome to make your public comment if you're there.
Hi, this is Jill Southard. I also live across the creek at 324 Jordan. And I'm concerned about the precedent that we're setting by allowing a homeowner to build a good-sized house over there with a deck that juts out over the creek into the variance setback. And I'm wondering why we would do that. There's no hardship there. Why do they need such a big deck? Why does it have to go out over into the variance? It seems like it should be able to. This is not a hardship, in my opinion. And I don't understand, why you would let that happen.
Okay, thank you. Jill, that's all you have? Thanks. Okay. Discussion, I guess, starting with Peter.
Okay.
Or resuming with Peter.
Resuming, or repeating. Yeah, we look at setbacks for a reason. In this particular case, we want to protect the slope, that it's not going to go into the creek, and we're protecting the creek. And is that better? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We want to make sure everyone at home can hear you.
I usually am told to be more quiet, but okay. I'll accept it this time. But anyway, so the reason for the setback is to protect the property or the land and protect, in this case, the creek. And there's some encroachment, but it's solid encroachment. It's not, I don't see that there are any dangers to those two primary goals from this particular project, the way it's situated. So that's the short version. Thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
I took a few notes here. So to summarize, overall, the square foot of the combined buildings is less than the total that was previously granted a variance. The footprint is also less. The encroachment, based on the numbers, and I checked, your guess was pretty close.
Yeah?
It was 112 when I pulled up the old one.
So close.
You said 111, and I heard 136 here, so the difference is 24 square feet, which is relatively small.
2 by 10 or 4 by 5.
24, 3,
Yeah.
3 by 8, yeah, et cetera. 4 by 6, about this big. One of the things we haven't discussed is essentially architectural review, the style of the house. I think overall it is consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood. I think the natural stone is a benefit on the architectural style side of things. One thing that was mentioned in at least one of the letters was lighting and the lighting being conveyed out at night across the creek. I think in general there's significant distance there, but as we have discussed in many of these things, we generally support, even though it's not required, having dark skies or fully shielded type lights. I think doing that would help mitigate those concerns as well. Sure.
I don't know if it's in the report, but I do plan on doing dark sky lighting on anything that's outdoors. In fact, I'm not sure this is in the packet, but one of the landscapers I talked to told me about Stephen Co. custom lighting in Berkeley, and that's what I choose to use outside. They're beautiful, handmade, copper, beautiful lighting. So, and he does dark sky. So that's
Great,
what it would be.
thank you. And I think the last comment I'd make is that I think there's some difference in terms of the overall mass being combined in this location versus the other one. You had separate buildings, or I should say in the previously approved plans were separate buildings. To me, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. One spreads it out, has a greater impact that way. One has larger in one place, so a visual impact, not a CEQA-type impact. So
Can I-
that seems to be a trade-off. Sure.
May I address the visual impact?
Yeah.
I think Dana stopped by the land when I was on the other day and the gate was open. She walked down and we discussed, and at that time she didn't seem to know what the variance is, but now she probably does. But also she was surprised to see, and as I pointed out, that there's no tree cutting that's going to be, no tree cutting that's going to be done. I as well want privacy. Also, when you're standing on the site, I can't see anyone's houses. All the Jordan houses are up above, probably 100 feet above. And even at night when I was there, you might see a little bit of a light, a piece of a house, and this is winter when all the leaves are down. So when it's leafed out, there's even less visual. So I don't see how they'd be seeing my house. I feel for Jenny. I've seen her down on the creek. She's like upstream, and she has her beach there where she goes. That would be the only visual thing that I see from my house. The beach that Carrie uses and Dana is further down. So basically, I really don't see anything except Jenny's path from the house site, and especially Carrie's house. He's very concerned, but he's way down, way downstream. And I'm not building across from him like Garrett Chow is putting his ADU over there.
Thank you. And I guess the last point would be that the height of the house is essentially the same, if not slightly less. Those are my comments.
Okay, thanks. Wendy?
Elise, it's a beautiful home. It's gorgeous, the materials you've selected. I think architecturally it's stunning. I understand why you want to live there forever. It's also a difficult situation because while we talk about things not setting precedent, I can't help but notice that so many of these conversations are having as a comparison to the prior approval, which then really functions as a precedent. So had I been on the prior commission, I would not have approved or been in favor of Mr. Chow's project. Based on my interpretation of what justifies the variance, which is a hardship, and in my opinion, the hardship is really based on the size of the home that has been chosen by Mr. Chow and yourself. So that is my opinion.
I suppose it's my turn.
Sure.
I was on the last commission that reviewed the last house, and while I agree we shouldn't be using it as a precedent, I think it's very hard to because this is such a challenging property. God, my image is right there.
Yeah. It is distracting, isn't it?
I received some direct complaints, which I encouraged to write in letters, which was done. For the record, please, if anyone else is listening, we have to act as jurors and can't have private conversations about these matters. And I also feel for neighbors. This is I agree. If you live in a really special spot, seeing new construction is scary. I have a home that is on Deer Creek as well. I appreciate the privacy and the nature that surrounds me. I'm very lucky. I also know that I don't own the section across my creek setting, and that is always subject to change. And I hope that you can find peace with your neighbors. It seems like you have been very thoughtful about the process, as I have been fortunate enough to find with my own. That said, I guess with respect to your build, I really appreciate what Wendy said about hardship. I also appreciate what Peter said about the purpose behind the setback, which is to protect the creek, it's protect the home. You've done your due diligence finding a biologist to do a new report on the potential impact of this construction. I think regardless of whether or not you build out 6 feet beyond the line, and I think I said this in the last case, it's not going to, all of us, like the otters in the stream are not going to say, uh-oh, they stepped 6 feet in the zone. There's going to be undeniable disturbance because that is the nature of building a house. And that makes me sad in some ways, but on the other hand, this is what we do. So I am in support of having your dream house and having your porch, and I have no problem with the variance.
Thanks. My turn, I guess. I hope the camera doesn't zoom in on me, so I have to get distracted.
I hope it does, so it's fair.
Right. I really do feel for people who feel like their viewscape will be strongly affected by your beautiful design. It's a big change in an environment that people have grown used to, and so I have no desire to minimize the impact and upset that would cause, and yet our job is to look at what is allowable and what a reasonable request is, and we would be acting wrongly to prevent the building of a house in a lot that's been empty for a long time because it's upsetting. I would be upset if some visual impact occurred significantly to my property, and yet if there's nothing actually wrong with it, that's how that goes. You're proposing a beautiful house that adds visual value. There's a lot of it. And I think the fact that there is an existing pad that doesn't conform, that's essentially being, you're staying within that. You're not asking for a variance that increases the impact that's already occurred in the area. The site will be built upon. It's a difficult site, limited, expensive to build on by anybody. And something very fine will need to be built to justify the expense or to make it even affordable to build. If I've said that right, I hope people understand what I'm saying. Architecturally, something that I personally feel is impactful that could be altered somewhat is the projection of the deck. There are other houses in the area up on hills, and there are very tall deck support posts, and the space itself would be beautiful and pleasant for you, and in the case of other houses, for them as well. Lots of great outdoor space with a great view below. But those soaring decks aren't within an area that's being asked for a variance to support. And so in this situation, I think the extent of the deck is impactful visually and maybe invasive, overly so visually. And I'm not an architect, and I won't weigh on design necessarily, but my impression is it sort of detracts from the integrity of the building as itself, as a piece of architecture. It projects itself out sort of beyond its. I'm starting to try and talk like an architect, and I'm going to stop. But if you'd like to respond.
Yeah, I apologize for the interjection. The architect, actually, Tyler Hilger, sent me a note just hoping to show the 3D rendering of the back area to maybe get a better visualization of the deck. And then also to present a possible option. Our firm is doing the structural engineering on the project, and we could investigate cantilever instead of a vertical post at that location. It may reduce the depth of the deck, but it is possible.
And I was thinking that a cantilever deck would be more graceful from wherever it's viewable from.
It seems like you're speaking of the distance that it comes out and not as much as the posts that are, or the cantilever of the design, but how far it juts out over the slope.
And maybe I'm stepping outside, I don't know, but the posts decrease, in my opinion, the grace of the building. Yeah, it's aesthetically, in addition to being sort of an outrigger and outcrop on the patio below, which is nice if the vertical, the vertical elements could sort of stop at the line of the patio. It would, and if it were reduced in depth somewhat to enable a cantilever. That's my aesthetic take on the design as pertains to the setback, the creek setback variance.
And those things were considered too. We talked about that with the architects.
Yeah.
I would think, because the design is so good.
Yeah, and a further comment from the architect too, and also structurally, is that we could increase the spans between the posts to reduce the visual impact. So currently, I believe they're spaced at, without looking at the plan, 8 feet on center, but we could probably go to 10 or 12. It would increase the size of the beam, but that would reduce the visual impact post-wise.
I'm sorry, what did you say the change from on center would be, from what to what?
Well, I believe it's 72, so that's divisible by 8, but possibly we go to like 7 posts in the back.
Okay.
So it would be a small impact, I think, visually, but it would be some, and that is something we could investigate with the structural calculations.
It may be just a personal thing of mine, though I do pay attention to design, that decks supported by a lot of posts aren't very nice to look at. Not very graceful, I guess.
Yeah, right now they're 10 feet, the span is 10, so.
Yeah, I think
and
that
it's
that's
30-foot section.
That's for the extension portion of the deck.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
and
the
other-
rest, it might be 8 feet, but.
10 feet,
Oh, they are
11
10. I
inches.
stand
Yeah.
corrected, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we could increase that. We could even eliminate one. It's just you have a very large beam at that point.
You mean taller?
Taller
Or-
beam, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and considering the snow loads in the area, anytime you go to a larger span.
Now we
you
have to
beef up.
consider some snow loads, I guess, after last winter.
Well, we always consider
Always.
those.
Okay, thanks. And I'll say that I was initially more concerned about the retaining walls to allow for the driveway. But given that at the highest point, it's 6 feet, is that correct?
6 feet at the bottom of the driveway, yes. Yeah,
4 feet at the house.
yeah, and then it decreases to like 2 at the top of the driveway. And that is actually a big change. They would have been 8 feet.
Right, which is 2 feet more invasive, which is considerable on that slope. That's all I have for now.
Should we do a straw poll?
I'll take one shot at Tom's comment. I tend to agree with you, and we're used to architectural review, but usually downtown and, where thousands of people are going to be seeing whatever we approve or approve. This case, that's not going to happen. There'll be people maybe in canoes occasionally, and maybe neighbors who walk
I
along.
would love to see someone try to canoe that creek. They say it's navigable, but I have yet to see it.
That was a theoretical statement. I take it back. But anyway, in this case, if this is what they feel as though they want to live with and like and all that stuff, and we're not finding a danger to the community or visually or otherwise, I'm I'm okay with their choice.
I would like to jump on what Peter said as well and remind everyone that there is around 100 feet between this house, what is it, maybe 90 feet between this house and the creek, and considerable numbers of trees in between. I think that visual impact would be mitigated by what's already there.
Yeah, I was going to make that same comment. No trees are being removed on the south side, and I believe there are plenty there to block the visual of the posts at all. I think you'd really have to look for the post to see it. The trees will really block the view.
Yeah, I mean, I stand behind what I say aesthetically, and I also wonder at the same time, where are those points of view? It's a high-profile house. You know, the idea of it, and it'll be notable architecturally. It'll be very present. Whether or not that is visible by large swaths of the general public, I don't know. I guess, yeah, I stand by my design opinion, though it may not be binding in any way, depending on how my fellow commissioners feel about it. Yes?
I was just gonna, I think your design opinion is valid, but I think both from Wyoming, I think it's not going to be visible.
Not from Wyoming.
Yeah, and I think from the other side, given the trees, it's not going to be visible either. I agree with you aesthetically. I don't like the posts either, but if nobody can see it, I'm not that concerned.
And I guess on the subject of design and the Tudor touches seem out of keeping somewhat, and there's not a lot of it. The Tudor style beams on the gable ends. It's not egregious at all. It's beautiful, but maybe less mother lode E than without them. That's me, I guess, playing architect a little bit, but that's my comment about that detail. I mean, otherwise, beautiful surfaces and great colors, roof choice, all that. It's really good. And I would just also like to ask while I'm talking if other commissioners feel any need to see any graphic representations of the house's impact and siting on the site before making a final decision. We could continue until we get a chance to look at the site and see what the impacts on the site of the creek setbacks are.
I have no desire for that.
That's not necessary for me.
All right.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay. Just throwing it out.
Since my canoers aren't going to see it, because there's going to be no canoers. Good point.
Maybe a kayak.
All right, well, I guess we can move to the process of approval or not approval, starting at the beginning, unless anyone has anything else to add.
I will motion to determine the project exempt from CEQA as described by the staff report.
Nice second.
A roll call.
Commissioner Ermshaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
And Chair Nye.
Yes. And I just want to confirm with the planner that that's the good starting point.
That was great.
Thank you, Lisa.
Figured, just checking.
And thank you for the staff report.
Yes.
And then what's next?
I will motion to approve a variance request making the following findings pursuant to section 17.88.030 of the City Municipal Code, that there are special circumstances applicable to the property, including the existing graded areas that exist within the 100-foot creek setback. Should I read the entire thing?
You could say as presented in the
As
staff
presented
report.
in the staff report.
Second.
Because I didn't hear anybody make any other conditions, so if I could fix it up a little bit.
Please.
The motion to approve is for a variance request, making the findings in the staff report regarding the variance request for encroachment within the 100-foot creek setback, and also steep slopes. And, gosh, I'm flailing. Yes, that is it. That is the motion. Oh, sorry, with the conditions that are outlined in the staff report, conditions of approval.
As conditioned.
So moved.
As conditioned. Thank you, Amy.
Second.
Roll call. We have a
Commissioner
This is-
Ermshar, sorry.
Sorry, are you on B?
We're on
recommended
B,
findings?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is the variance.
Oh, we'll do a roll
I'm just
call.
rereading it because there was a lot
Oh,
going on.
did you have a question, Wendy?
I'm just rereading it.
Okay. Shall we wait to vote till you are good?
I want to finish rereading it.
Yeah.
I can't vote for both, so that's a no.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden,
Yes.
and Chair Nye.
Yes.
Motion carries, and then we have a motion, we need a motion for the tree removal, which we didn't discuss, but
We did
there
not
is one
discuss.
tree that's a 6-inch madrone that is in the location of the eastern stairs, the deck stairs. Do we have a motion to approve the tree removal?
There's something I'd like to discuss or mention before we go there. It's my impression, I'm not certain, it's my impression that trees that were, tree removals that were approved for the previous project might have been might have been carried out, even though that project was not built. And that seems improper, because that project did not get built, so the tree removals shouldn't have been done because the project didn't get carried out.
Unless, were the tree removals in question carried out prior to you purchasing the land or post? Can you recall?
Actually, post, the application and permit was extended by CAL FIRE.
Yeah, and our tree removal permits are expire after 180 days, so I'm not sure if.
He said a year.
Yeah. So the permit may have been expired, yes.
Perhaps this is something to discuss at another time?
But-
Yeah, I guess it just is worth mentioning that if there are other tree removals, since it's expired, I guess it doesn't matter, but, and maybe those removals would have been necessary for the project you're proposing. But if there are any trees that would like to be removed to facilitate this project, we would need to reconsider those particular trees because this is a new project. And I don't have an issue with the madrone that you know.
There's only one madrone.
Yeah, no, and that's the one.
That was, somehow the architects thought that was in the,
Right, not trying to be troublesome, just keeping things very clear and in the correct process.
I move we approve the removal of the tree.
The one tree.
The one tree.
Second.
Commissioner Ermshar,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden,
Yes.
Chair Nye.
Yes.
And then the last finding that the commission needs to make is a motion to approve the architectural review application, subject to the conditions of approval. Making the findings that the residence proposed is compatible with Nevada city-style architecture and also compatible with the context of the surrounding neighborhood.
I'd like to add a condition,
Of course.
which is we are supplied with a lighting plan and lighting instruments. And I
The
think
plans do specify dark sky compliant on the plans? Is that, but you want to see the fixtures?
Yeah, the specific fixtures, just because of the, the potential light impact there. And I would think that a liaison could cover that. I mean,
I think there's some pictures coming your way, Tom.
Oh, thanks. The other option would be that she could send me something and I could put it on consent for the next meeting. Or you could look at these and see if you're happy with them.
I think to put it on consent would be good.
Okay.
Yeah, just have really thorough, clear info.
I'm ready to go with what's being presented.
If you wouldn't mind restating the motion, that'd be great.
With the condition of lighting instruments being supplied and then under consent for the.
I think maybe we should see it. To me, this isn't, at least the example supplied here. Maybe these are an example of his work, but these themselves don't necessarily look to be dark sky compliant.
Oh, he has on his webpage, he says how he makes them dark sky.
Okay. So I think your condition's reasonable.
Okay, so I'll make the motion that we approve architectural review with the condition that the actual lighting designs be presented and on a subsequent consent item in our next meeting. If that's, that won't hold you up.
That's fine.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Armstrong?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes,
Chair Nye.
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah.
So are we. After the last one?
You're through the paperwork, now the real work begins, right?
Did you want to make a?
Thank you.
No, I just said thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And I want to thank T2 Architects who hung in with me and accepted this challenging project. I think they're incredibly talented. And also Jason from SEO has been completely amazing. So, and Josh, I'm looking forward to working with Josh more as my contractor.
And thank you for taking the time to make a house design within that complicated space. We know that it's not easy.
Yeah, and I realize it's a big impact on some of the neighbors, but after it's built, I hope things will settle down and some dogwood trees can be planted or something some nature that would help also protect anything visual from their side.
And maybe some willow down by the creek
Yeah.
for the otters.
Thank you very much for all the info.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise.
Using a lot of battery time to get to the end of this application.
It's a very long application.
How many hundreds of pages?
Almost 3.
How about a bio break?
Okay, yeah, let's take a brief recess, 10 minutes?
It's fine with me.
Okay,
you,
we're
Tom.
going to take a 5-minute or 10-minute recess.
Thanks, Wendy.
Recess, back in session.
She has great
Next up, we have architecture review and variance request for construction of a shed within the 5-foot side yard setback at 119 Grove Street. And do we have an applicant in the house? Hi.
What page does this one start on?
The AC's on.
Oh, I know.
170.
70?
170, 170.
Yes. It's like,
170?
Yep.
What?
Page 170 in your PDF. Would you like me to introduce the project?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay. So this proposal is for architectural review and a variance request within the standard 5-foot side yard setback. Property owner Melody White bought this home, and she is almost ready to embark on a major remodel of the historic property. And she needs a place to store materials and light fixtures, all of the things that go into remodel projects. She is hoping to place a shed. The site is constrained in a few ways. There was previously a shed on the property in the rear corner, basically right up against the side yard and rear yard setback, or right up against the rear and side property line. I had initially requested that she consider rotating the shed to hopefully get it out of the side yard setback. But upon further conversations and review at the site, it was not going to get it out of the side yard setback either way, being rotated this way or this way. So her current proposal is what you see in your staff report. There's a sort of retaining wall in between the driveway parking and where the shed will be built. And then there's also a short retaining wall with like a concrete walkway between the house and the porch, and then where the shed will be. So it's proposed to sort of be perched on top of that short retaining wall area. The roof line has been measured and is proposed to match the roof, where the roof of the overhanging front entry porch. So the height of the shed where the roof line goes up and the existing roof line of the porch will match. At the bottom, I'm not 100% sure on the pitch. They may be slightly different, or they might work out to be very similar. Colors, she has proposed to match the house. So the body of the house, or the body of the shed, will be sort of like a yellowish tan. And then I'm not sure about the trim. I'll let her speak to that. If I missed anything, please feel free to add.
It looks like there was
I'm
also
sorry.
like a previous,
Russ is saying, Russ, can you not hear us?
Oh,
He can't hear us.
No.
We'll need the city attorney to hear what we're doing.
okay. Can you hear me now? Thank you.
Thanks for letting me know.
Oh, man. Okay, I'll start over. Proposal, you don't need me to?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I was just going to add that it looks like you've also included a file from 2017 that also approved a shed, or?
Yes, so since there was an existing shed that was in disrepair and needed removal, we have a policy within the code that allows for people with existing non-conforming structures to repair or rebuild within the same footprint. So the previous property owner submitted an application for a shed and was going to place a tough shed there, but then basically never got around to it. And if that right is not exercised within 2 years, like if the shed gets taken down, then they no longer have the ability to use that existing non-conforming status
Thanks.
to their advantage. Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably see me next month because I'll have my architectural review for the fun part, the house part. But this definitely is something that I've been trying to kind of figure out a way, and Lisa's been a great help, just trying to kind of figure out where we can kind of do some sort of shed. And because of the way that the property's shaped and the grade of the property, the way it kind of comes down, where the previous shed was, it was basically flat up against like where like a real strange little, where the stairs are currently, and right up against that back stone retaining wall, which is technically the other, the neighbor behind me's property line. So that shed was kind of there. I mean, the property was built in 1890, so, you know, all sorts of things have happened there, I'm sure. And eventually that, where that shed is, there's breather lines to a septic line, a pipe that goes all the way up that hill that's probably about 150 years old. So they had kind of had this little shed sort of thing there over part of that line, but it's so far back. And right now it's so steep you can't even, like, even to get it level. And from the street, it's going to be this crazy looking thing. So I was hoping that the shed that I want to put down further will kind of create a little bit of a side yard there. And that way, because I don't have a garage, I don't have a basement, I don't have an attic. So all these things that I'm kind of acquiring and getting together to do my construction with, there's really no place to even put those things. And eventually, you know, I would think, like, living here, I would need some sort of storage as far as, like, you know, ugly shovels and rakes and things like that. So I would think, you know, that back part of the shed, it's gonna match the house. I really want to put some more trees back. I've taken a couple trees down that were a problem with my neighbor's house, and just, you know, being fire safe and being a little afraid after the last 2 storms that kind of blew through last winter. So I've been trying to make, as far as the retaining walls and the being mindful of any sort of drainage, and with what has kind of been there for a while, a lot of the drainage and a lot of the dirt has been going into my neighbor's kind of side. And so I was trying to correct that and kind of, you know, get this whole little side area so it's not washing down into the driveway across the street. And so I put up the one little retaining wall to kind of figure that out, and then now this would be like a perfect spot to kind of put the shed on top of it, and then it'll just be like a consistent kind of look from the street. I'll keep, like, you know, I'm just really trying to avoid, I don't want to put a garage because that's going to be like this big monstrosity and kind of look weird. I mean, the house is pretty small to begin with, so I was thinking that this might be the best, you know, the best idea kind of all the way around. And recently there's a few materials that I kind of had beside my house, and some of my neighbors like assumed that, you know, well, they must be free because they're just hanging out there, but I have no place to put them. So just to kind of have a little spot, I can move forward with what I need to do, and really, you know, help with all of the drainage and everything that's right around in that little area. So, I mean, I do understand that, you know, there's, it's supposed to be 5 feet from the property lines. And I can kind of, you know, I'm not trying to push anything into an area that's going to restrict any drainage, that's going to obstruct my neighbors. Everybody has been, like, really helpful, and my neighbors are great. And, you know, I've even asked them, I'm like, what, you know, what did they do, you know, as far as like storage and stuff? And some of them, like, they were able to dig out and build a garage or a carport. I can't really do that because coming down the middle of my driveway is this old sewage pipe that's been there that goes under the ground to the creek, to like a pump that I guess that goes along the creek. They kind of branched it off, I think, years ago. So there's still the pump at the creek, and then the above area. It's just something that, like, anything that's that old, I don't want to touch. until, you know, there's a problem. But the way that I have this platform and the way that the shed's gonna go, everything will be 100% accessible. So if for some reason the neighbor up the hill has a problem with that line, they'll be able to get to it no problem. I mean, I'm sure things have changed over the last 100 years as to why that pipe goes through there, but, you know, it is where it needs to live. I have no problem with it, but I just can't quite dig to that one little side.
Any questions from commissioners for staff or the applicant?
I'm just curious. I looked at the packet previously, but I can't pull it back up here, and I just don't understand what the green thing is, out of curiosity. I don't, is that?
That's the actual platform of the shed. So I had gotten so far as I built that platform and it's all level and, but what that is that's like basically protecting it. I didn't want to go any further with building anything, you know, without checking with you guys and kind of figuring out like, is this something that I can do? Is this acceptable? I did, you know, as I was doing it, I'm like, oh wait, this is supposed to be 5 feet, but maybe, I mean, there's just really no other place to put it.
So it's an elevated platform, is that what it is?
Yeah,
that you want to put the shed on?
It's going to be to the level of the little side patio. So from the front, that shed's going to blend right in to.
Like the other view.
Don't mind
Is there a front view that shows the platform?
Yeah, behind my car probably.
Kind of. So she recently repaired this retaining wall or rebuilt it because it was like crumbling, and so it's approximately the height of what you see here next to the car. I don't know if you can see that. Let me zoom in for you.
Is that a little easier to? Is that what you're?
That's the side view.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I guess I'm curious about the front view and the car's not there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Does it look like
a cinder block
hovering
wall.
Is it like a hovering shed,
Not
or is
really.
it? It's like on the
about
ledge.
2.5 feet
Yeah, it's
tall.
a 2.5 foot cement retaining wall that.
And your plan is to landscape in front of it?
Yeah, I want to put. I've been taking notes up and down the. Shirley, my neighbor across the way, she's like pick the thing that grows the best, and so she was pointing out different trees and stuff for me to play with. So I put those little guys up there just to kind of propose like that's kind of what my idea is, to have the shed, put trees in front of it. Obviously, like, I mean, those are like silly little fake guys, but I mean, you know, I'm still trying to, I might copycat my neighbors across the street. There's like those really, really pretty ones that don't have a lot of leaves to rake up. So there's you know, I'll jump off that when I get to it, kind of. But that's what I really want to do, is put some trees in front of it so you don't even really see the shed.
And this was probably previously covered, but maybe I didn't quite catch it.
Yeah,
But
there was some trees there before. Oh my goodness.
No, that's a preamble to a question, which is the old sighting of the shed in back is less visually impactful for the neighborhood, but that gets in the way of the sewer. Why? What's
Yeah,
wrong
because there's
with
a line there, because you'd have to make it level. And so where it was kind of like a pump house design, and now since there's been so much erosion, that whole kind of hill where that old shed is.
Yeah.
That whole thing, it's tilted now. So it's a lot higher where that shed is than it is where I'm proposing the shed. So that would like really stand up, like it would, especially now, because this was before that driveway was put in there. So now with the driveway, that would kind of stand, that would be pretty tall.
Okay, and your neighbor to the left in the Strong is supportive?
He you know, he was just like, whatever. I mean, and I told him, I was just like, well, if there's an issue, and I even told him, because I'm gonna repair and redo the fence, and I'm like, is there a pretty kind of fence you want? Is there? And he's just like, as long as there's a fence.
Wait, I think I know that
like,
neighbor.
He just really wasn't.
So he's not unsupportive of your various requests.
I know.
I had one public comment on the item from a neighbor, but I checked in the address and they were across the street. And they said they support Melody. Anything she does will beautify the property. And they support her having a shed in the front there.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Is there any public comment in the house or online? regarding this variance request?
If you'd like to comment on this item, please raise your virtual hand. We do not.
Okay, so any discussion?
No, very complete.
Yeah.
Shed, I think. I just didn't understand how it was sitting on the property. It was confusing.
I didn't either, and that's
Yeah.
why I went out there and I verified the property corners and made sure that the eave wasn't going to overhang the property line and that it truly was entirely proposed on the property.
Well, the elevation of it is what I
Yeah, and
couldn't
that
get,
too.
the
Yeah.
elevation.
And this may be an improper question, but I guess since you've visited the site and seen all the conditions, and you feel this is a good placement of the shed, you know, taking into consideration all the site conditions.
I do, yeah, yeah. As, like Melody said, the backyard, it's not flat anymore, so I'm not sure if the previous shed was built up, you know, on the front or not. But, and when you're out there, the difference between the location where the other one was and the proposed one is somewhat negligible, maybe like 15 feet. And so I think the visual impact will be pretty much the same. And then it also gives her an opportunity to store materials behind it without having seeing it from the street.
Yeah.
Whereas if the shed was back there, then the stuff would be in front, so.
My assumption is that because you're trying to create a little bit of a
Just like that
backyard,
little side area as well, you
and
know.
given the elevation of the shed, I'm guessing that it's facing actually into your backyard, the doors. So really what's visible from the street is blank siding.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I'll put
And
the
landscape.
trees there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good question.
Did you say quick question?
No, I said good question.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize.
Okay, well, does anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to determine the project exempt from CEQA as described in the staff report.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Ermshaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
Chair Nye?
Yes. Next for us, our next assignment, Lisa?
Cute house, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. We
Can't
need
wait
a
to see
motion
her.
to approve
Yeah, we
the
haven't-
Yeah,
variance.
I
we're
move
not
to
there yet.
approve
It may
the
not happen.
We have
variance
three-
for the
three-
shed.
We have three things to approve. I'll move to approve the variance request as presented in the staff report with the conditions cited there.
I second.
And Commissioner Ermshaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
Chair Nye?
Yes.
And I'll also move to approve the architecture review as presented in the staff report and subject to the conditions therein.
Second.
Commissioner Ermshar?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
Yes.
Chair Nye?
Yes.
Now.
Great, thank you, guys.
Now you're there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll probably
See you next month.
And you'll see the, what I wanted to.
That's
Oh, I can't wait.
exciting.
I'm very curious about that house.
Thank you very much.
It's a cute house.
The next item is number 5, a tree removal at 100 Willow Valley Road, removal of 2 20-inch pine trees. And I have to recuse. I live too close to the subject site.
I also have to recuse myself because I also live within 500 feet of the site.
Okay.
So,
See ya.
who would like to chair? Would you like to chair this?
Given that you're staring at me, yes.
Right.
I'll be happy
Made
to
a big
share.
decision.
You caught the stare.
It was very subtle.
Hardly.
All right, Lisa, would you like to present this item?
Sure. So property owner Terry Doherty is requesting removal of 2 20-inch ponderosa pine trees. The reason for removal includes hazard to the structure. She believes that the tree roots are affecting the foundation and the sidewalk feature. Several trees were removed from the property in July 2021 without a permit, As such, I can't do staff level review for this tree removal permit, and it needs to be reviewed by the commission. I do have, or she provided me with some photos that I can share with you here. Hopefully they made it in. And also I included her site plan from her architectural review approval from a few months back. So let me share this screen. So to give you an idea of where the trees are, this is her existing driveway. And it's these, there's 3 trees here. One is a cedar, I believe, and it is not being requested to be removed, but the 2 larger pines are. And then here's some photos that Terry provided to me. This shows the 2 trees. Same here. Am I right? Is there a cedar tree there also?
The little baby one
A
in
little
the
one.
center.
Okay. And then this shows some of the damage, lifting of the concrete. And another picture of an interior doorway that she believes is being affected as well.
And windows. Yeah.
So feel free to add anything I
Cool.
might have missed.
So just for the record, on that original, I've gotten permits for all of the tree removals. That one time happened was a boo-boo that came in. My tree guy showed up and they didn't make an appointment and they just started removing trees. So that's just, so we have that on. It was a big. It was a what?
Error.
It was a large error. Anyway, because I've permitted all of the tree removals over the past 20 years. So, what was your question?
Anything else that I missed or that you'd like to add?
No. Yeah, it's just, oh, there's a letter from, did you include the
Oh,
letter?
yeah, the Trees Unlimited. She did have them, the trees checked out by Trees Unlimited, and let me just remind myself of what he said. He says, the pine roots are lifting the concrete next to the home. The roots are definitely growing under the foundation, and as they grow, the potential of cracking the foundation. When conifers grow next to each other, it causes problems. The reason for this is because as the trees get taller, the inside of the tree does not get any sunlight, and then it causes the trees to lean. The trees do lean toward the home. One of them leans towards the home, and the other leans towards the power line. Also, home insurance says that they are too close to the home, and that they may cancel the homeowner's insurance if they are left there.
Okay.
Yeah, and not to mention, I already did have a tree that took out part of my house.
That was a neighbor's tree.
That was way away, yeah. But yeah, that was a good one. Cool. I think we're good.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
Any questions from
No
the commission?
No questions.
No questions for me either. Are there
Comments?
comments
Public
from the
comment.
public and online?
Any commenters in the Zoom land for this item? We have none.
Any discussion?
No?
Looks pretty straightforward.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion?
I move we approve the removal of subject trees. Oh, do I have to, that's it?
I think there's,
We got to hit the
More? I
sequence.
can't see my thing.
I think there's two, there's approve the application, and then there's the CEQA approval as well, or CEQA exemption.
Okay, somebody's gonna have to read it.
Okay.
CEQA exempt. I move that we approve this as CEQA exempt.
That works.
Second?
Commissioner Ermashar?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
And Commissioner Van Zandt?
Yes.
Great. Then the tree removal approval.
Sure. I move we approve the application for the removal of 2 20-inch pine trees as presented.
And the comment not necessary for reasonable use of the property. It's the recommendation in the motion.
Okay. As,
We got it?
That was part of the presentation.
Okay.
Yes, are or are not. So you guys are saying they are necessary for reasonable use of the property?
Yes.
Wait a second.
No,
Second.
wait, Russ said something.
yeah. They are not necessary.
Oh, thank you,
Re-
Russ. They are not. You are 100% correct.
Okay. you're
What
good.
Russ said.
We had a second? Okay.
Second.
All right.
Commissioner Ermshar?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
And Commissioner Brown?
Yes. Great.
It's the easiest one we've had all day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
CEQA
We did,
you're voting on, that last thing?
No, that was the application to remove the trees.
the first one was CEQA, and the second one was the actual tree removal.
Great.
You're good to go.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, bye.
Do you want to go get them?
Yes, please.
And you guys, are you getting
Are
cold now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting cold. What is next? I can't see anything. I'm
Okay,
blind.
do you want to try a different one, or is
Oh,
it
yeah.
is it the technology or no?
Yeah, it won't load, so when I scroll, it just blanks out and starts over.
Okay.
It's a big packet.
Brr, now it's cold.
I'm turning it up.
Oh, no worries.
You guys just
Okay.
pass those out amongst yourselves for this one.
Next
Was it-
is
Are
commercial
they all the
street.
same?
They're
No,
all
I
the
have to
same,
go.
so you can just pass two and keep one with you and Rod. Yeah.
Share those with us.
Take one and pass it on?
Me.
Yes, basically.
Did, you seem to be
I
short
believe Wendy
one.
has to recuse.
I do. I must recuse myself
Oh.
due to proximity of my business at 303 Broad Street.
Thank you, Donna.
Was the applicant here?
Yes, the applicant is here. Would you like me to? Okay,
yeah, this is
Levon,
so-
come on up.
We're looking at architectural review, 405 Commercial Street, new siding and repaint in the historic district. And Commissioner Ermshar is recused because her business is,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Oh, is her business close?
her business is within a sphere that she must recuse.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, would you like to introduce it
Yes.
for us? Thank you.
So this is, as Tom suggested, this is a request for architectural approval, architectural review, and a repaint. The building in question is on the same property as the New York Hotel. It sits on the, what you could consider the rear of the lot. The structure is not on the Sanborn maps. It's not shown in its current location. There is a building that it shows on the Sanborn map that's in a similar location, but is likely not the same building. The history of the property is that Levon's father purchased the property in the 1960s, and at that time it was more, if I understand it correctly, was a one-story and functioning more as a garage, and he raised the level of the building and added the architectural features, which I would describe as Italianate style. The proposal that she has brought forth today is for a product called True Exterior, and I'll pass this around. Let's see here. So there's two sides here. This is the rough and this is the smooth. The True Exterior siding that she has proposed is the channel bevel profile, which I can pull up on my screen here in a minute. So it's a smooth finish, channel style joint with an angled edge, and the proposed size is 1x8. The features that you see on the corners of the building are called coins. Q with a Q. And those are proposed to be added and replaced as well with the same material, but it would be, it would run through a molding machine and be made to fit as the corner pieces appropriately. Trim details are also proposed in the true exterior product. I did review a couple of projects because I know that in the historic district it is traditional that the commission likes to stick with wood siding. And I did see that there was a project approved, well, in a few phases around the street here at 419 Spring Street. The approval that you did for the 3 different sides, not the Spring Street side on the front, but the other 3 sides were also for this product with a different profile. So the channel, I think they did the Dutch lap, and this is channel bevel. And so with your findings, you'll need to obviously decide on if the colors are appropriate and if the proposed product is appropriate within the historical district and the mother lode architecture style, and also that the proposed alterations are compatible with the context of the surrounding neighborhood. So the paint colors, I will show you on my screen here because Levon owns several buildings, not only in Nevada City, but also in Grass Valley. And the color scheme that she has chosen was used on another one of her buildings. So here you'll see that building. This is over on Grass Valley, in Grass Valley on, oh, really?
I've got some pictures you could just pass.
Okay,
around.
great.
I'm glad I brought them.
Yeah.
That was a construction picture.
Is it the
We
same
did-
colors?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much, but it's primed on the lower portion.
So this is like more, it looks more white in the image than it
Well,
might.
it's just primed.
Okay.
And then I hired this company to critique and tell me how to paint it, that does historic buildings.
Okay. And then on the, so actually only 3 sides are proposed to be updated. This is the 4th side and it's sided with tin. This is on the north side. So colors that are proposed are, one of them is within the Benjamin Moore historic color palette, and the other 3 are not. And then the siding, the profile that is proposed, I'll show that to you here, is this channel bevel. So you can see that, can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
That it overlaps itself, but it's not just blocky, it's cut at a 45 or some angle. So from piece to piece, it'll overlap, and then the piece below will have an angle to sort of blend between the 2 pieces. And I did bring that brochure too, which I can pass around. Did I miss anything, Levon? Do you want to describe the paint colors better, or?
I think that those photos will help.
Okay.
They're very coordinated and go together well. Our company has built historic buildings before, like the one in the photo. That was a brand-new building. So we will make it historically correct.
Does anyone have any questions, the remaining commissioners?
Of the applicant, no.
Of the applicant? Okay, yeah, this is in the packet,
Yeah.
Okay, no questions for staff. Is there any public comment? No one in the room, apparently, except for us.
My lucky day.
No one online.
Okay, any discussion from the commission?
Yeah, I think a question we have to deal with is the material, I was going to call it hardy board, but I forget what the exact name is.
It's
True exterior.
True exterior, sorry, it's made out of ash, ash wood, and it's a composite, so yes.
It is a
Should have
composite,
clarified that.
yes.
I've used hardy board in the past, not in this town, but
I didn't know the name of it, so
Yeah.
all I remember was hardy board, but
yeah,
the,
that's concrete. That's concrete, and it doesn't look like wood necessarily.
okay. Well, it's not wood, so that's a consideration. And one comment, the Spring Street, that we purposely allowed the three off the street, but wood on the street. And I believe we have two houses building right around the corner that are wood, the Baker Building and the one that burned down, right?
Yeah,
Is the Baker Building wood?
it is,
Oh, okay.
it
No,
is.
across the street?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Broad.
Advantage.
Yeah.
That's by Kelleher, and that is wood.
Yeah.
It's pine, and I'm not that up on pine as far as longevity. And I've used that product in the past, and they're little small pieces, and they're finger jointed and glued together. And I've used it in the past, and if I were to use it, I'd put lots of paint on it. When I went to Hills Flat to inquire about Advantage, and that's what both those houses are going to use.
Right.
They said this product is better. The profile is exactly the same, and it'll last longer. And in the brochure, it says it'll last 20 years, but I mean, I've had the Advantage last 20 years. I've used it 20 years ago, but I'm just holding my breath that it doesn't, the seams can pop, and I'm not maybe gonna wanna be in charge of redoing it again. So I'm trying to get a product that will have longevity. And it is more expensive, and I just decided I'd do it that way.
Again, I think the issue is wood versus this material, the true exterior. Other than that, I think I love the building. I even got used to the blue. It's going to take a while to get used to it.
I thought I would just,
Are we still doing questions?
No,
Yes.
we're having
In discussion.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't think anyone had any questions.
All right.
Do you have questions?
I don't have a question.
Do you have a discussion?
I don't have a discussion point either.
Is that all you wanted to say, Peter?
Yes.
Amy?
No, I don't think so. I guess now I have a question, but it's irrelevant.
Is it?
Just out of curiosity, why do you not wish to do the tin side if you're going to be redoing it? Is it a cost issue or?
well, I think it's right on the property line.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's probably why my dad opted to do it in tin, because it was just covered with all sorts of greenery and stuff.
Okay.
For, to make it more fire safe. That's probably what he was thinking of.
So you're not proposing to replace the tin?
Yeah, this is just three sides.
Right.
I got that one.
I guess in terms of comment, I think I love what you did in Grass Valley with the Antero building. I think it looks phenomenal. And in the past, I appreciate the wood on the front of the street because sometimes these products can be really glaringly not wood.
I know what you
And
mean.
I also think that the Spring Street building, the job that they did, I remember when that project came up for review again, being blown away because I never realized that it wasn't wood.
Yeah.
It's a really nice product. I guess my one concern is that this particular sample reminds me a little bit of pressure-treated wood, and I would hope that the final product doesn't have the same kind of etching.
To
No,
clarify,
I've
though,
got
she's
to-
proposing the smooth side, right?
Well, this is what he gave me at Hills Flat. So it comes in smooth, and I'm not going to use the textured.
Okay.
And
It's kind of a convincing rough-on story, not for this application, but the smooth side.
if
I
this
think
is their
what you're-
smooth side, I just don't know.
So on wood siding, we've, it makes sense. These composite materials are, thought to be very durable, and this is way better than the concrete board stuff, which tends to like sag and it does all kinds of strange stuff.
Well, you can look down it at an angle, and you can see it like go in and out, and you can see imperfections. Unless it's like the shingle pattern, I have been so fooled by the hardy shingles that they look real good.
So we've been, like for like would be preferable. The thing about the Baker Building, for example, is that you can see that it's wood, the imperfections, the slight undulations, the indications of the grain under it, the imperfect joints. It has a very historic feel, and from a practical perspective, the building on Spring Street that they've recited in this stuff, the sides and the back, but the front is wood in a very visible location like this building here, and it's also unfortunately, I guess, but fortunately for the city, really contributive to like texture. There's a lot happening here, and it's a really strong statement. It says a lot, and it's a great building. And it's like oddness and the coins on the corner and stuff. And it's really visible from Broad Street and from Commercial Street. So it's kind of a saving grace of Commercial Street. And
Well, okay, go ahead.
well, and we're to allow composite material in the historic district, especially when we we required the bakers, and I can't remember the name of the people they're still under construction, but we required them to have wood siding.
And that's the advantage.
Right. And I mean, this maybe isn't material, but I've used the Advantage product, and I like it a lot. It's sort of pressure treated hard pine. It's not a soft pine, and I don't mean pressure treated with anti-rot stuff, but it's got a coating on it. It's pretty substantial stuff, and it's not cheap. But this isn't either.
Well, I've used it probably on 4 different buildings, and in one time I didn't get it final painted fast enough, and it just went to pieces. And I just wonder, in 20, 30 years, what's going to happen. I'm just a little afraid of it, is all.
A concern, because it's not on Broad Street. The look of wood matters, especially from a distance. You can see that it's wood. Wood buildings with wood siding. You can see it, and it may be a subliminal impression, but it does feel historic. So to allow composite material, and this is a very nice composite material, here it's adjacent to a project that we required be wood. It might set a precedent that would allow the New York Hotel to be sided in a composite material, and then that fully changes.
Yeah, I understand.
our
I mean, if
approach.
you want me to use Advantage, I'm not going to be doing this work for a long, long time. And I just wanted to do it and have it done.
Yeah.
So it would last. The New York Hotel's been around 150 years. It's got its original siding on it. A lot of the buildings in town have got their original siding. We just fixed up a Victorian on Richardson in Grass Valley that's about 150 years old, and it's But it was redwood, heart
different
redwood in
wood,
those
yeah.
days.
Yeah, that's probably the case with the New York Hotel too, Redwood,
I
right?
don't know what kind of wood that is.
I mean, the front looks great.
Yeah,
Still.
it does. No, I've said the exact same thing that you just said. I mean, I want it wood. Dad did this out of Kubich cedar,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I'm pretty sure that's where, it's not Western red cedar, which
Right,
would have been
right.
better. But it's lasted since probably 82, but it's just disintegrated now.
And the coins, though, would make sense because they're beveled, it's so exposed, you know, the edges are so exposed, it'd be very vulnerable to water intrusion. It would make sense that the coins be constructed of this stuff.
Yeah, this can come to dimensional wood. It'll come 1 inch thick.
And you can machine it, right?
Yeah.
Without compromising its integrity.
And another thing on our building that it's really short runs. It's not like a big long run that you can look down the side of and notice that it's maybe not necessarily wood. That helps in that regard. In the Baker building, he had some long runs, and it looks good. I should have went over and analyzed it more, but I have used the Advantage. It's just, I'm a little nervous about it is all.
I mean, you know, it doesn't, we're not talking about the Baker building, but because they used wood, I just would not think that it's a new building.
Well, they used Advantage.
Right, but it looks like wood.
Well, it is.
It is
It's
wood.
pine,
Yeah.
finger jointed pine.
Yeah, but just because of the imperfection of it.
But you don't want to be seeing the checkered part in 30 years of where it's delaminating. Is just a
The
thought.
the finger joints.
Yeah.
It's hard to see into the future, but in the present, the wood product looks appropriately historic.
Oh, yeah, that's how I've always felt. On the
yeah.
building that the paper's passing around on.
The Intero building.
Well, the little one next to it, this wood, I used Alaskan white pine.
Oh.
And it was very tight grain. And it was during the recession, so I had stuff available to me. And I took a 2x6 and I cut it in half and made all the siding. But even as tight a grain as that was, and as good a wood as that's supposed to be, it requires a lot of maintenance.
I mean, and I will say too that your new proposed profile is I think a great choice and a real improvement over the V groove.
Well, that's what my dad did. But he got a lot of the accents perfect on that building, but there's a couple of things he didn't get exactly right. And so I'll just make them the way, from the examples we have in town, make it more authentically historic.
Can we back up a second? So this building is not necessarily on the Sanborn map. This was a renovated garage at some point?
That's what I think.
I wonder if it is worth considering, perhaps being the youngest of us by a hair, I am thinking of... I'm thinking of the changing world that we're in, especially as climate change and fire present themselves to us and the way that we need to anticipate those pressures, which is why we have these products coming out better and better. I am so appreciative of the incredible preservation of this town and the things that have gone behind that. I also think that in the case of this building, we aren't looking at replacing, the whole reason that we're having this conversation is that wood that fell apart because it's new wood is falling apart now, right? And the same thing could happen in 20, 40 years, as the applicant is pointing out. Perhaps because this is a smaller building, it's not as historic,
it could serve as a test case for using products like this to see if it can fool the eye without setting a cumbersome precedent.
I think it would set a precedent.
I think it couldn't not set a precedent.
I guess my thinking is,
These are
Yeah, I
very
like
good
the points.
Yeah.
And-
I agree.
And in situations where we've approved use of composite materials in the historic district, it's on the backs and sides of buildings that really makes sense to do a fire it's the only sane thing to do, to present a fire-resistant surface to something that's in great proximity, and yet the fronts, I think, should be wood.
Unfortunately, this building faces south, and it's the part that gets really beat up.
It's brutal, yeah.
But those are my thoughts. That's why I chose this. And the Advantage is a nice, very nice product. I mean,
Yeah, I've chosen to use it because it seems really, really robustly, I bet on Advantage, because it seemed to me as a builder, robust, and so far it's withstood, 13 years of elements.
yeah, I did some siding over by Four Paws
The trim.
on a building, and I used Advantage siding. And I was thrilled to do it, but I'm still worried about whether it needs another coat of paint or not. And that's been about 20 years. And you can't really see the finger joints yet.
Right, I mean, that was, and there are cheaper materials that do that, and I was not going to go with those because I'm just talking from my personal experience. Yeah, I wasn't going to do that because I figured I don't ever want to replace this. Like, I don't want to be 78 and replacing my woodwork, my exterior woodwork.
I can relate to that.
I have a question, just for clarity. The Advantage boards are wood? Are they manufactured wood? Is that?
They are wood, and they select clear grain, no knots, and the way they can do that and provide lengths of like 16, 20 or so feet.
Okay.
The lengths are finger jointed. Not that the
And
finger
they're
joints.
not that big of pieces. They're small pieces that are finger
Yeah, they're
jointed.
not.
And then if you got like a 2x6, you got
You've got
them
vertical
on
joint.
top of each other going this way and going the other direction.
Right, which does add to stability, because you don't have one piece of dimensional lumber like cupping or warping. If you have two structures connected to each other, they counteract their inclination to warp or cup or something like that. But that's my perspective. That's all my input on it, and obviously you care about a historic look and feel by your other buildings.
Oh, I've been through all these these thoughts. So, I mean, I have went out of my way to buy wood, but now I'm using other things because wood just isn't as available these days.
well, good wood.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Well, should we, my problem is the historic district. You lose a little here and you lose a little there, and and pretty soon it's not what it turned out
The
to be.
slope
and what the
becomes steep.
Yeah, what the intentions are. So I did not know that Advantage was actually wood. I didn't know what the name of that product was, but it sounds like it's better than just going down to Hills Flat and picking out some wood, I would think. So
Oh, you mean in their lumber department?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried that. You try to find a straight 8-foot anything, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Umpteen times, but
I will make a motion that we approve the recovering of that building in the Advantage and with the proviso, well, the reason is that it matches up with the two buildings that are right around the corner. So we'll be consistent with that. So that's my motion.
Could I suggest a modification, though? I mean,
Of course.
I'm tending to be in agreement with your motion, but to specify wood siding. So it can be Advantage, it could also be Kubich cedar if you chose to do a.
you don't want Kubik.
No, but I mean, it's from.
You can't get it anyway, first of all.
From
And
your
that's-
standpoint, it gives you an option, but.
But that's incense cedar. That is not a good cedar. You want Western red.
It might not be, but I think for the motion to specify Advantage could be constraining for you. It could close off options if we're specifying Advantage, but if it's wood siding, then any wood siding that you think is appropriate would be.
Okay, so the Advantage would come
Advantage
under
would
the
be in
heading
that.
wood.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I will
did you
change my motion to,
Well, I think there's one more thing. You were talking about potentially keeping the coins.
The coins, the decorative aspects, I don't think I think they'd be bad for you, and for them to be genuine wood wouldn't necessarily help aesthetically, because that's not what we're not.
Well, they were made out of wood, and so I was just looking at this product as if it were wood.
Right.
But Advantage makes stuff. It's just, we'll have to just really stay on it, painting it.
If you,
do we want a two-part?
I'm happy for you to make the motion, but if you choose to make the coins out of this material, if that.
Yeah, I could do that.
If that would help you, then it'd be nice to allow for that.
I make the motion that the,
What about the trim work? She has the true exterior trim work proposed.
this guy, these guys?
Yeah,
Not the coins?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of detail around the windows. Anything else that might come up that, do you think the window trim will need to be replaced?
Yes, I'll do everything so that it's real waterproofed and everything.
Okay, Mr. Carpenter, builder person, help me out here. I'm making a motion that we approve the siding to be wood, and that the other decorative pieces
Can be wood or composite material.
can be wood or composite material.
True exterior specifically, because it's a very nice material. It's a very
Oh,
nice
yeah, it's-
composite material.
It's supposed to be the top of the line, if I could find any.
Including true, what is it?
True exterior.
True exterior, okay.
It's a-
That's the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Zant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cobden?
No.
And Chair Nye.
Yes.
And you're a carpenter?
Yes. I'm
Craftsman.
a cabinet maker mostly now, but have
Oh, okay.
An artist, you might say.
done a lot of historic restoration work on the East Coast and have a lot of experience with what works. and
No,
what
I
doesn't.
sympathize. I've thought the same things you're saying. I mean,
Yeah, no, I hear that.
I'm just, trying to evolve some.
Levon, I was looking through my book that I have. I think it's put out by the Union or something, and it's like Nevada County Memories, a collection of historic photos. And I noticed that a lot of the photos were contributed by you.
Oh, the old postcards?
Yeah.
I let the gentleman that does that take pictures of all my old postcards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, neat. Yeah, it's a good book.
I also would like to say I really have fond memories of that building when it was the T-shirt shop.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and that was quite a while.
Yeah.
That was a T-shirt shop for I think that was the first tenant after it got elevated. And I don't remember exactly what the building was before my dad. He just raised the roof a bit and had this style. And so I'm just keeping with his style, but it's siding more out. It's real worn out.
And in keeping with history, I worked there 7 years with Sierra Watch. They're still there.
Yeah, they
Obviously,
are.
yeah.
Oh, they are.
Yeah,
So you were our tenant,
I was a tenant.
and you didn't have to excuse yourself.
Yeah, I didn't have to disclose or anything.
Oh, well, that was 10 years ago. I was just bringing it up that I know the building, so.
Yeah.
Good
Well, we
time.
try to take care of our buildings, and it's a big project sometimes.
Thanks for being a good
Yeah,
sport.
thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
your-
you.
Thank you very much for your care.
Excellent taste.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll send me a memo on what I've
Yeah, I'll
got to
send you an
do.
approval. Do
Okay.
you want your photos back of the building, the other building?
Sample? Yeah, you can keep them if you want.
I put them in our file.
Okay, there you go.
good.
Thanks.
Do you want the sample?
No, I've got one.
All right.
They
Have to
gave me
return that.
two. Yeah, the architecture on the small wooden building, we went up to Ferndale, and I copied the pilasters off the buildings that I really liked in Ferndale. Those are all heart redwood.
Yeah.
And I have a carpenter that can make those pilasters exactly like they were made before. And all my people are retiring.
Aw. Yeah, Ferndale is pretty special.
Yeah.
It's a dying thing. Craftsmanship is really,
Yeah. There's a lot of
Leaving
details
us.
that we put on those two buildings. It was during the recession, and a lot of people I could get to come work for us, and it was very nice.
Well, it's beautiful.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Nice
you.
meeting you all.
You too.
we have another item. Architecture review.
Big one.
For new residents on 358 Gold Flat Road. And I wonder if we have an applicant in attendance.
Yes. Hi, Matt. I'm going to bring you in. I'll go ahead and introduce your project, and then you can talk about it. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay.
Would you like to introduce the project for us?
Sure. So this is an architectural review application for Matt Tanaka and Ali Cooper, property owners at 358 Gold Flat Road. It's a 2.68 acre parcel zoned rural residential. So the setbacks are a little larger. On the front, it's 50 feet. On the rear, it's 25 feet. The property is currently undeveloped, except for a shed that's out there and a few shipping containers for storage. There's also a driveway, well, I guess an access, but that exists that will need to be improved for a residence. The proposal before you today is construction of a new residence that is a two-story steel building on a slab foundation. The size is 2,550 square feet. The property owners consider steel buildings to be more fire resistive than traditional wood frame construction, hence their proposal of an all-steel building. The building is proposed with a gabled steel roof, large windows, many of them are double hung and or tall and narrow. As shown in our design guidelines, the colors chosen are ocean blue for the siding and matte black for the roof, and ash gray for the trim. They brought me color samples that I'll pass around that are basically sort of a guess of what the manufacturer's colors would look like, because for the steel building, it comes pre-painted. So in the staff report, you'll see the colors from the manufacturer. So in determining your, and then another note is that the site plan that was submitted is very vague, and I've had discussions with Matt about this. He's in the process of getting a site plan done by Lincoln and Long Engineering. They did a survey and they're working on the site plan, but it's not completed yet. So they really wanted to come before you today and get any feedback or potentially an approval on their building, since it is a bit of an alternative design before they move into final construction drawings and finalizing the site plan. So if this would require a two-step approval, so they would need to come back for another approval of their site plan as the building sits on the site. I will say, I think I forgot to mention that the siding is steel board and batten style. And I believe that kind of covers it. Anything I missed, Matt, that you want to add?
No, listen, I've got my wife here, Allie, with me. No, you did a really good job covering that. We are longtime travelers, and we did have another place up off of 20, and so we are very sensitive to kind of the overall look and feel of the community. And so we, even though it is a steel building, we are able to work with the building manufacturer to make sure that it fits and fits the community. So some of the things we've done in order not to have it look like a steel building is we've increased the pitch of the roof. We have added extra eaves and things like that that really make it look more like a traditional house. In addition to that, we've added a lot of windows. My wife wants the outdoors in, so there are multiple openings for windows and doors to kind of open it up and bring light in.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Thank you. I wish I could see you. It'd be cool to see you on camera. Maybe next time.
We apologize. Unfortunately, I am out of town at a conference and we could not be there in person.
No, yeah, understood. And the fact that we can move forward with the help of technology is awesome. Do commissioners have any questions?
I do, clarifying question.
Yeah.
What's before us is a concept, not a final, right?
It could be a final for the house.
Could be a final for the house, okay.
Yes.
Then if it were the final for the house, what would be left to approve?
The site plan, so like checking that the building is not in the setbacks or not too close. There is a wetland on the north side of the property, so making sure that it's in the right place, that the driveway is compliant with the building codes and okay with the fire marshal or fire chief, things of that nature.
So this is an architectural, yeah, as it says in the staff report. Okay.
Okay.
And so, did you have another question?
No,
Peter?
that was my question, because I saw an architectural review here and wanted to know if we're going for the whole building or just the concept, so.
I have a question on the steel siding. It's a question on the pictures, the Black Beauty, modern Tennessee farmhouse. Are those examples of kind of the genre? Are they specific materials?
That shows that I requested pictures of what this board and batten steel siding would look like.
So these are steel?
Yes.
These structures are steel?
Any description for the siding design, Matt?
No, and absolutely, those are kind of the examples of what the siding would look like. They are steel buildings, and this is kind of the beginning of our kind of inspiration to go to more of a steel building. Just one of the things that we're very concerned about, the property had been, there was actually a barn on the property years and years ago, and our neighbors, the Strums, used to play on it, and so they gave us a lot of the history of what we ended up purchasing. And so based on that and kind of the fires that happened at Paradise, and I happen to be, my family's from Lahaina, and with the recent fires, et cetera, we want to be more conservative and cautious about fires. And this seems to be like a really good, and we know nothing is fireproof, but this will definitely help in terms of fire resistance.
So I have a question, or did that cover it for you, Wendy?
Yeah, so is the white one also metal?
Correct.
They're all
Correct.
metal. Is there a product name that is that referenced?
So no, so the company that we found that's manufactured the building for us is out of Sacramento. It is Steel Commander is the name of the company. Basically they will modify to our specs in terms of the siding look and feel. So this is what we have selected, and so this is what they'll deliver to us.
It may be so.
While you're doing that, I'm still having a problem with, this doesn't seem like the usual architectural review
I agree.
that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with what's presented, just saying it looks like a good.
Vague, right?
It's not a complete
The
application.
windows.
Yeah, we don't know, what the materials are other than the side. We don't know
So
what's roof.
sticking with format, I think we should ask for public comment at this point, and then begin discussion.
Oh, I did it again, didn't I?
No, it's fine, because that's.
Actually, I did have one more question. In the rendering of your building, which, as was just mentioned, doesn't have a lot of detail, is that blue line just an artifact of the rendering, or is that some sort of belt line on there? That's on page, what is that? Page 230, looks like.
230.
I'm sorry, I'm looking to see. There's on the document that I
Okay.
I don't see a page.
So
let me
it's
go
the
to
one that you sent me just a few days ago, Matt, with when you sent the images of the houses. And it looks like it may have been a rendering that you did.
Yes. So what we were able to send to you in this package is the engineering documents directly from the steel manufacturer. If you go to let's see, 5 into so that's what came from the engineering company. So yes, there are no windows and no doors in that particular rendering. It does show the openings, et cetera, of what we had them do. If you go further down to like 2, let's see, hang on, sorry.
So the one that we're
I'm
looking
sorry,
at-
can I interrupt? Was the question, Rod, what the line in the middle of the house is?
Yes,
Okay.
that was the question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Before we go down a rabbit hole.
That is unfortunately an error in the rendering itself. There is not a line there.
And then those two, are those like garage doors on the end there?
Those would be French doors on the bottom. Those two on the end wall B. The line that you see is that it is open on one side, so that the line that you see there is it's a 2-story on one side of the building, and so that is the floor for the second floor there.
That's what I suspected.
Right, so it's just poking through the side, the floor in the model is poking through the siding.
It's not poking, it's just indicating.
Yeah.
It's just a.
He's talking about
It's
the
an
layout.
artifact of the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And when you say,
I see.
and when you say there are no windows, just the openings are shown, but the window the windows themselves aren't shown graphically. Is that what you meant when you said that?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
And if you go to page 240, just the one above it, so I started putting in some of the windows. So we like the double hungs. Again, it aligns to kind of the architecture that is in the community. So this, I tried to start showing some of the windows and our selections of what we would do.
And a question I have, I wasn't able to go past your site to, I just couldn't get to it. So I don't know if this house is readily visible to the neighborhood.
So it actually,
Yes.
it slopes down a little bit from Gold Flat. So even though it's a two-story, it won't present as a two-story. And we've set it back kind of in the middle of the property, working with Lincoln and Long and making sure, because we wanted to make sure, because of the wetlands behind us, the northwest corner, I think is the northwest corner, is more than 100 feet away from the high water line of the wetlands. We just didn't want to deal with any of the environmental issues or have to do variances, et cetera.
I ask because it's an unusual style of building, and I think we're probably doing a preliminary look at this for the material and the style of construction, and its visibility by the public would be a consideration that we'd bear in mind when considering this. Kind of an unusual use of a manufactured steel building as a residence, and your reasoning is all great.
It's right next door to Douglas Automotive.
Uh-huh.
So if you're going down Gold Flat towards the gas station, it's the property just beyond Douglas Automotive. And then it's also before the Sriam's property, which is that other sort of large home that's close to the road.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big lot with a lot of frontage on Gold Flat Road.
How far back is it from the road?
There's a lot of trees. It's
Yeah, there
a
are-
treed
I think-
lot, but open space.
I am
There's-
very familiar, and I've been scoping the driveway as I've driven by, because we talked about it a while back, right? It's not readily visible.
Not
Yeah.
that it's like ugly or anything.
I
Good.
think it would be visible. I mean, there's,
would-
unless
definitely
they
would
put
be
some
visible.
screening or something up, but, because you can look in now and see what's there. So,
So public comment?
Yeah, but so if there's any public comment, let's hear that at this time. No one in the room.
Nope.
Okay, no public comment, so let us have a discussion now.
I can pop in.
Let's start with Wendy, I'm sorry.
My opinion is that we need more information, but I did hear, I think, or interpret the interest in kind of directional architectural guidance. Is that what I heard? And so I have two things as you're defining your plans further. One would be those reference photos of similar style kind of inspiration still do have a steeper pitch roof that I think actually adds a lot of elegance and helps to diminish the appearance of kind of a warehouse building. It looks more like a home. That would be one thing, is a steeper pitch. The other thing is I would strongly encourage you to reconsider the ocean blue color, or whatever that's called, lucerne. I think in a natural setting, that's going to look a lot reminiscent of like a blue tarp on a wood pile. It's just so blue, that's my opinion. But so again, part of what's striking about the inspiration photos is just how clean and simple and subdued they are, with the strength of, the vertical board and bat and the seam metal roof, and a contrast of some natural wood is really lovely. It's not poppy, it's subdued, and I think that integrates well with a forest setting.
I'll second what Wendy said so well. I would just like to say that I think that this is a really interesting, I'm really excited to see this come to life, and I think
this is a really cool approach. It's so neat to see batten board steel. And I agree with what Wendy said. These examples are so beautiful. I think that we would be really lucky to have any houses that looked like these around here, even with all of their Gothic modernity. I would also encourage you to reconsider the blue and white combo. I think what works about these other examples that you shared is that you don't see trim popping out unless it's natural wood. I mean, do whatever you want, of course, but I think that the white would take away from the other things that are going on. But but having a more clear rendering would be very helpful.
A steeper roof would be more attractive, I think, and look, I think it'd just be more beautiful, more striking, and kind of play against the idea of a manufactured steel building. A lower pitch roof, as in the rendering, kind of plays into the typecasting of a manufactured steel building. And this is kind of, in my experience, the first of its kind around here, and I'm super curious about it. And as Amy Cobden says, it's an exciting thing. I feel like we don't have nearly enough detail about how things are connected, trim treatments, window detailing, to do a full architectural review at this time. I'm not opposed at all to a manufactured steel building, though it'd be good. So something that I'd like to see is actual product detailing, how the board and batten effect is accomplished, to really understand what those joints look like and the impression they give. So a lot more specific, I mean, I would encourage a real design that we can consider. And from my perspective, I'm not opposed at all to this metal concept, and really curious about how it's built and how it goes. I mean, personally curious, and then also from our standpoint, to do thorough architectural review, we need lots more detail. And also, we're really asking for lighting, actual lighting units, a real lighting plan. So from an advisory standpoint, I'm cool.
I'll second everything that's been said about the metal building. I think especially in a location like this, which is somewhat on the periphery and much more susceptible, I think, to a fire. I think it's very appropriate. I also second what you're saying. I think the photos that are given there are very pristine. I think along the lines of what Tom's saying, if there's not a sample of like the joint, having like a close-up photograph of some of those details so we can see what they are would be helpful, especially just like you're saying, how those overlapping pieces fit together. And then,
if I may interject, like sections of how that
exactly,
works.
Exactly.
A horizontal section of what that siding detail is.
Or an actual sample.
Yeah, or a sample, exactly. My final comment has to do with the windows. Just looking at even the openings as they are, and the renderings feel a bit random. I think having a little more cohesive organization will add to some of the beauty of the house as well, and more closely reflect, I think, some of the things that are appealing about those idealized examples in the other photos. So I think some consideration of how the windows look versus each other could potentially help this too.
Agreed.
And I'll throw something else in it to raise the stakes, perhaps. it being sort of the first of its kind of this kind of project. It kind of raises the design bar a little bit because it could be a very nice, thing out of, outside the historic district, in more rural settings. It could be a very good innovation to bring to the city.
A flagship.
Yeah, a flagship.
Yeah.
Good term. So that's just to raise the bar from a design standpoint for you. Thank you for laughing. That was my intent.
Challenge accepted.
Aha, okay. And so I hope this is helpful information for you and helps to move you forward.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. So just a couple comments. We weren't sure of the process. Initially, we were told that we were supposed to do the architectural review first before actually applying for the building permit. So that's why it's not as complete. And when some of those other ones came up in this meeting, wow, the bar, the bar was set high there. So that's kind of the reason why these are a little rougher than I think you were hoping for. And so both my wife and myself do have a design background. She's been in real estate for over 30 years. And so we definitely know what you guys are, the community expects, right? And how to make sure that we're upholding that standard. And so I think the next steps, I took a ton of notes. We will make sure that we get you samples and some the reference drawings of the siding, as well as kind of the materials that we're going to use for the windows and so on. Lincoln and Long is finishing up the site plan for us, and then they are also going to do the design, the engineering for the inside of the house. And so they'll be able to help with making sure the windows, et cetera, are placed correctly.
Right, the interior. So I'm sorry. Go
Really,
ahead.
if it's of interest to you guys, but steel buildings like 5 years ago, no one would set foot in California for residential because of our so many of our code situations, and it's really just been the last couple of years. Paradise is building a ton of steel buildings right now. They're super modern looking and things, which isn't what we wanted. I want some, well, anyway, it's just kind of a newer concept to California. But you can go over the rest of the country and there's tons of steel home buildings. Yeah. Some of them are not very pretty, but they do exist.
Given the challenge of this, I think also before coming back, they could have a site plan review committee meeting,
ARC.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it would I think that could be helpful in providing some feedback before coming to a full meeting.
Okay. Yeah, Matt, what Commissioner Rod Brown is suggesting is that once you get your site plan pulled together, we do an advisory review committee meeting where 2 commissioners will meet with you to see how the building sits on the site and just help you get ahead of any potential concerns with that might come up. So that would be in advance of our next Planning Commission meeting.
Got it.
Perfect.
Okay, then
We're on the right path.
we're good. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
You have our provisional blessing for a steel building.
Our encouragement.
We will take it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next
Thank you.
step, keep going.
Thank you very much.
It's a nice lot, by the way, I like it.
We love it.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. I made the joke about a blue tarp, and it's like there's a blue tarp on that.
I don't think it's as blue as the blue tarp.
When you see this on a giant building, yeah, it's a different color blue.
My house isn't that far from that color.
How could you?
Don't invite Wendy over.
As for business, I think we're concluded unless you have anything else for us, Lisa.
Nope, the only other thing was the October building report, which is in the staff report if you want to review the permits that were pulled. during the month of October. Our next regular meeting is December 21st, so Thursday. Christmas falls on a Monday this year, so that is the Thursday before. If anybody really doesn't want to do that, let me know, because we do have some things already on the agenda, which Matt and Ally will be one of them likely. So just heads up about